Immortal Cultivation begins with time management. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876. This is unreasonable. On the stone steps of the road to heaven, three geniuses who cultivate the tower are either sitting or standing, and none of them choose to move forward. Because if they get the first place, they will become the chief disciple of this generation, and be taught by the headmaster. In normal times, since only the chief disciple can be taught by the headmaster of cunning, and the other disciples can only be taught by the chief disciple on behalf of the master, everyone often has to move forward madly for this quota, and even fight for it. However, now no one wants to be the chief disciple at all. The nine heavens Pure Land realm mantra that only the headmaster can learn. Sorry, Elder Changzhen can also learn it, and sooner or later he will become the headmaster to teach us. Even with the luck that the headmaster Ziwei has for Elder Changzhen, even if he teaches us now, the headmaster Ziwei will probably turn a blind eye. But Elder Changzhen's first-grade immortal infant, clear mind of Taoism, and superb combat power, are all things that the headmaster Ziwei does not have. Become the disciple of the headmaster Ziwei, become the junior brother or sister of Elder Changzhen, and then compete with him for the next headmaster. Impossible. But if you become a disciple of Elder Changzhen, you'll have the qualification to compete for the next headmaster. There are so many benefits, so no one wants to be the chief disciple, they just want to grab the second place and nominate Elder Changzhen as his senior brother and sister, so they all pretend to be exhausted and can't go on. The road to heaven, adjacent to the sky, will naturally be affected by the magic sound of the devil. The three people chose to stop and stay, but they also took a huge risk. As the magic sound of the devil continued to invade the mind, the lazy mind would become more and more serious, and they might never stand up again. But in order to become the limited edition chief disciple of Elder Changzhen, the three people just silently fought against the magic sound, and had no intention of getting up. Zhu Yingyang put down the sword light, stared at the three young people, frowned and said, "Why not? Grandma." Zhu Jin said calmly, "Rest for a while, and do it later." Zhu Yingyang looked at her, then at Luo Chuan and Ji Yuan, and some absurd emotions arose in his heart. She was very smart, so of course she couldn't fail to guess the intention of the three people doing this, but she just thought it was too outrageous. When did the title of chief disciple become so worthless? But the Kunlun sect rules did not prohibit stopping on the way to heaven, so Zhu Yingyang could only shake his head and sigh, and continue patrolling along the mountain road. As the first echelon collectively lay down, the second echelon soon arrived at a place about 100 steps away from the finish line. Seeing the three people staying in place, the 6 or 7 people were first shocked, then happy, and then stunned again. The shock was because everyone knew that there were 3 people in front, but now they all stayed in place and didn't move, which was really strange. The joy was subconsciously thinking, as long as I surpass them, can't I get the title of chief disciple? There were many reasons for being stunned. Some smart people immediately thought that the chief disciple was not as good as Changzhen's disciple, and getting the first title was a burden. As for the rest of the people, although they didn't think of this, they noticed that the 3 people in front of them didn't show any signs of fatigue, and they could all perceive the reason why they stopped moving forward, but it was not because they couldn't walk anymore. What was the reason? Is there a hidden wall ahead that will kill you instantly if you hit it? With such an uneasy mood, and amplified by the magic sound of the demon, the people in the second echelon also hesitated and dared not move forward. When the news reached the main hall at Kunlun, there was an uproar again. The elders really couldn't imagine that after the first echelon was in a mess at the gate of the finish line, the second echelon also suffered. Although no one knows what the broken window effect is, everyone knows that the magic sound of the demon at that position is the strongest. The longer you stay, the higher the probability of sinking, and the lower the probability of completing the road to heaven. If the 2 echelons are stuck here, and the people who follow behind stop moving forward, resulting in no one completing the road to heaven in this session, then Kunlun's opening ceremony will really become a joke. Everyone quickly turned their eyes to Qiu Changzhen. Qiu Changzhen was also puzzled. "Why are you looking at me? Can I ask them to leave quickly? Go and see the master." The headmaster of Ziwei coughed, attracting everyone's attention, and he felt mixed emotions. Although his disciple had taken away all the honor and glory of the opening ceremony, he was not unhappy. Honor. Being able to cultivate a cunning cultivator as powerful as Changzhen was the biggest honor for him, the headmaster of Ziwei. Now it seems that Chan Zhen, who has formed a first-grade immortal infant, is likely to become the strongest headmaster in the history of Kunlun Tai King sect. You know, even the immortal Kisun did not have an immortal infant at the time. Although the headmaster of Ziwi is not weak, compared with the heads of Kunlun in history, he is not worthy at the title of the strongest. But isn't it a good thing to be the master of the strongest headmaster? As for the glory, it goes without saying. The headmaster of Ziwi is actually a lazy dog. The previous masters gave lectures every 5 days, but he gave lectures every 10 days. Although the previous masters could not take care of all the disciples, they at least took care of the chief disciples. However, he only gave lectures, and left all the questions and answers to the 2 chief disciples in the Foundation Building Realm and the Golden Elixir Realm. Only Qiu Changtai and Zhu Yinglyan were given special care. Now no one wants to be the chief disciple of this generation, so he can get some peace by becoming his disciple. Master Ziwi quickly winked at his subordinates, and an elder from his line came out and said, "Everyone, Kunlun has been established for 10,000 years, and the rule that the chief disciple must be taught by the master himself. Isn't it time to change it? You know, originally, the sooner you complete the road to heaven, the greater the room for choice, but this first chief disciple who completes the road to heaven must choose the master as his teacher, and has no right to choose other elders. Isn't this a bit too harsh? This statement actually makes no sense. Because only the master can practice the 9 heavens pure land true words, the quota of the Kunlun master's disciples has always been sought after by everyone. And the Kunlun master can't accept all the disciples who want to be his disciples. He always has to look at the state of mind, talent, family background and other aspects of performance. If the master is not good, and only accepts disciples based on nepotism, then no matter how high your talent is, it will be useless. The so-called the chief disciple must be taught by the master is actually a bottom-line policy. It means that as long as you can get the status of the chief disciple, you don't have to worry about losing the status of the master's disciple for various reasonable or unreasonable reasons such as unstable state of mind, insufficient talent, poor family background, and the master didn't eat scallion oil noodles this morning and was in a bad mood. Its essence is to protect outstanding talents, not restrict them. But now the situation is like this. Everyone doesn't want to be the chief disciple, and they all want to worship under Elder Chan Zhen, resulting in no one willing to take the first place. Therefore, although the elders complained in their hearts, they didn't say anything, but just nodded silently. Well, it's time to change it. Master Ziwi said calmly, "I'll go ask the immortal for instructions." Chapter 877. Learn from the enemy to defeat him. This, after listening to the narration of Ziwi's sect master, even though Kisun Immortal was well informed, he was a little amused. He didn't want to become a disciple of the sect master, but would rather worship the elders as his teacher, and even avoided the position of the chief disciple. What kind of thing is this? What do you mean? Kisun Immortal asked again. Immortal. Ziwi's sect master said calmly, "Let the chief disciple choose his own teacher." Since the sect master didn't care about the disciples being robbed, Kisun Immortal certainly had no reason to deny it. He nodded and said, "Then let's do it." But Chan Zhen can't accept too many disciples, so as not to hinder his own path. That's right. Ziwi's sect master nodded and said. So many elders came to ask for favors, and behind them were large and small Immortal Cultivation families. The pressure of the union should not be underestimated. Since Kisun Immortal had spoken, the power was in the hands of Ziwi's sect master and Elder Chan Zhen. Whether it was decided to accept 3, 5 or 7 in the end, it was all Kisun Immortal's opinion. If you want to find someone, go and talk to Kisun Immortal. After returning to the main hall, Ziwi's sect master called Qiu Changtai and said to him alone, "The Immortal has promised. How many disciples do you plan to accept? Is it okay if I don't want to accept any?" Qiu Changtai thought to himself, but said, "Please ask Master to arrange it. In my opinion, 4 is enough." Ziwi's sect master stroked his beard and said, "Zhu, Jie, Luo, and Zhao, accept 1 each." "Does the Zhao family and Yuan have 1? Qiu Changtai asked in surprise. "The little girl who is currently ranked 4th is it?" Ziwi's sect master replied. "Accepting 4 disciples is not a problem. Anyway, I can let my junior sister help me teach." Thinking of this, Qiu Changtai agreed. Turning around and going out, he raised his arm, and the sword in his sleeve flashed. The flying sword sent a letter and flew towards Zhu Yinglyan. Zhu Yinglyan received the message, read it silently, and then descended according to the height of the sword light. At the end of the road to heaven, only 100 steps away from the gate of heaven, there were already more than 30 people sitting densely. This situation has happened before, but the seats were generally more scattered, not like now where they were all concentrated in one place, as if they were having a picnic in the mountains. Zhu Yingyan lowered the sword light and glanced at Zhu Jin casually, who immediately stood up and turned to face the direction of Tian men. The headmaster has ordered, Zhu Yingyan said loudly, the chief disciple can choose his own master. As soon as the voice fell, it was like the firing of a starting gun, and everyone below moved almost at the same time. Zhu Jin had already taken a posture, so he walked the fastest. Luo Chuan was originally sitting on the ground, and now he quickly stood up and took a step, falling behind her by 7 or 8 steps. Ji Yuan quickly followed Luo Chuan. These 3 people were worthy of being in the first echelon before. Now they are moving forward again and immediately leading by a long way. As for the people behind, most of them staggered after just a few steps. The magic sound of the demon magnified their muscle soreness and physical fatigue. Soon, a slender girl left the main group behind and quickly chased in the direction of Ji Yuan. Is that Zhao Yunhu from the Guan Zhao family? Zhu Yingyan recalled a little and remembered that this girl had been hiding in the second echelon before, but she had deliberately left some strength. She extended her eyes forward again and saw that Luo Chuan's speed was still increasing. It was obvious that his physique was better than Zhu Jin. But Zhu Jin took advantage of the first mover advantage. Even though that distance was being shortened, he kept exerting force with his feet, and it seemed that he would not be overtaken quickly in a short time. As for Ji Yuan, she followed Luo Chuan slowly. It was unknown whether she was using all her strength to maintain this speed or planned to overtake at the last moment. Zhu Yingyan was curious and watched the 3 people chasing each other. When they were close to the mountain gate, Ji Yuan suddenly took a step and rushed up 2 steps at a time. However, Luo Chuan and Zhu Jin also quickened their pace, changing from walking to running, moving forward at full speed. The 3 of them actually had some energy left at the same time, and at this time, they all burst out at the same time and began to compete for the top position. Since there was not much distance left, the final ranking remained unchanged. Zhu Jin was first, Luo Chuan was second, and Ji Yuan was third. Then, about a quarter of an hour later, Zhao Yunhu also completed the road to heaven and crossed the Tian men. Looking at the remaining people in the second echelon behind, because they stayed in the Tianmo fantasy sound for too long, they were all very slow, and they only stepped onto the first step with a grunt. It seems that the 4 of them have the most potential this year. Zhu Yingyan thought to himself. In previous years, those who could complete the road to heaven in the first echelon were basically the Zhu, Luo, Zhao, and Ji families who took turns to be the dealer, but now all 4 families are complete, which is also rare. I just don't know how the senior brother will accept disciples. The 4 of them rested for a while at the Tian men, and were soon led into the Uxu Palace by the disciples and became disciples in order. Disciple wants to take Elder Changzhen as his master. Zhu Jin, as the chief disciple, was the first to speak. This was not unexpected, so the elders and the masters did not react. Only Qiu Changzhen said leisurely, "Why do you want to take me as your master?" Zhu Jin turned his head to look at Zhu Yingyan behind that crowd and replied, "Disciple has always admired our ancestor, true man Cunning, and our ancestor respected Elder Changzhen the most, so I am willing to be Elder Changzhen's disciple." This answer was really clever. It seemed to be the worship of the ancestor by the younger generation, but in fact it was secretly reminding Qiu Changzhen, "I am from your wife's family, one of us." Qiu Changzhen saw that she was so smart, and he appreciated it, so he nodded in agreement. The next one was Luo Chuan, who said loudly, "I also want to take true man Changzhen as my master." "Why?" Qiu Changzhen asked. Ancestor Han Yuan said. Luo Chuan was about to follow suit, but Qiu Changzhen interrupted him with a smile, "You can't use the same excuses you've used before." So Luo Chuan thought for a moment and said, "I want to make a first-grade golden elixir, and I want to seek guidance from predecessors. It has to be you, Elder Changzhen." In just a few words, he first showed that he had great ambitions, and then secretly praised Qiu Changzhen, who nodded with satisfaction. It was Ji Yuan's turn, and she naturally chose Elder Changzhen, and replied, "Elder Changzhen is a man of clear mind, which is a rare talent that is hard to come by in 10,000 years. I was born with the ability to speak and wisdom, but I can hardly use 1/10,000th of the value of this talent on the road to Taoism. I sincerely ask Elder Changzhen to give me some guidance." Oh, Qiu Changzhen was also amazed. These boys and girls, each of them was only about 16 or 17 years old, but they spoke in all kinds of routines. they were indeed from a family of immortal cultivators. Well, maybe the four major families of Kunlun had already made plans for my personality and coping style, and taught them how to deal with me. Finally, it was Zhao Yunhu's turn. Just when Qiu Changtian was about to listen to the Zhao family's reasons, he only heard Zhao Yunhu say in a loud voice, "I heard that Elder Changzhen was once an enemy of my Guan Zhao family, but in the end, my family suffered a great defeat. I chose Elder Changzhen to be my apprentice because I wanted to know whether Zhao family failed." Qiu Changtian. Everyone. Well, the Guan Zhao family definitely didn't train this person. Chapter 878. Teaching each other. Finally, Qiu Changtian accepted 4 disciples as masters. He said. Zhu Jin had the best character, even better than Zhu Yingyan at the beginning, and there was nothing to complain about. Qiu Changtian subconsciously ignored the culprit who made junior sisters Yu unstable. Luo Chuan's physique was even better, probably the best among all. Originally, the Shushan King sect was more suitable for him, but the Luo family wanted to bet on me, so it didn't matter. After all, my sword-controlling skills, Qiu Changtian, were second to none in the entire Kunlun Tai King sect. Ji Yuan's greatest advantage was her wisdom, and it was obvious that she should go to Pengliu King Temple. For similar reasons, she chose to join my sect, and anyway, I could teach her whatever she wanted to learn. Finally, there was Zhao Yunhu. This little girl. After the apprenticeship meeting ended that day, Qiu Changtian asked a few elders of the Guan Zhao family faction, and only then did he know that the Zhao family had actually prepared a whole set of rhetoric for her. Originally, Zhao Yunhu had given a good guarantee in front of the elders of the family, and he answered questions fluently during the rehearsal. Who knew that at the apprenticeship meeting, he suddenly abandoned the script and played freely? As a result, the elders of the Zhao family immediately changed color, but they were powerless. Now they could only hint to Qiu Changtian in a roundabout way that Zhao Yunhu was actually very outstanding in all aspects, but he was a little stubborn in character, and hoped that he would not mind. Qiu Changtian certainly would not get angry with this little girl, not to mention that he did not attach much importance to these master-disciple relationships. After all, he would betray the sect sooner or later, and being too close to these disciples would harm them. Therefore, he and Zhu Yingyan took the 4 disciples and flew back to Miaoxuan Mountain on a sword. Introduce yourselves. In the cave, Qiu Changtian sat casually on the edge of the stone bed and said. Zhu Yingyan took a cushion from the side and gave it to the 4 disciples to kneel. How to introduce yourself? Luo Chuan asked first. What does the master want to hear? Just talk about yourself in general. Qiu Changtian said casually, what you like, what you hate, and your dreams. The 4 disciples looked at each other in bewilderment. What kind of self-introduction is this? In this era, self-introductions are generally given with a surname, a given name, and a background. The information Qiu Changtian mentioned was too personal, which made everyone feel a little weird. But the master had spoken, and no one dared to disobey, so Luo Chuan took the lead and said, I'm Luo Chuan, I like to practice, I hate weak people, and my dream is to make a first-grade golden elixir. Zhu Yingyan looked at him speechlessly, thinking that this child is smart, but not mature enough. Previously, at the apprenticeship meeting, Qiu Changtian had not agreed to accept you as a disciple, so he wanted to test your quick wit, so it was okay for you to show off your cleverness. But now that the master-disciple relationship has been confirmed, asking you this question is to quickly narrow the interpersonal distance. If you continue to flatter him in this pretentious way, you will lose your true nature. Is that so? Qiu Changtian said with a smile, but you are also a weakling now, aren't you? I can't be a weakling forever. Luo Chuan said confidently. Yeah. Qiu Changtian didn't comment and looked at the others. What about you? Zhu Jin. Zhu Jin replied, what I like is reading, and I don't hate anything. My dream is to be free and at ease. Oh, then what is freedom? Qiu Changtian asked with a smile. Zhu Jin was silent for a moment, and replied, everything I do is from my heart, and there is no need to do anything out of necessity. This little girl, it seems that the Tian and Zhu family has specifically asked her to be my disciple, which makes her very unhappy. Qiu Changtian glanced at Zhu Yingyan subtly, meaning that although this child seems indifferent, her competitive spirit is exactly the same as yours back then. Zhu Yingyan's mouth twitched slightly, and he said, even if you ascend to heaven, if there is someone you care about who forces you to do something you don't want to do, what will you do? Zhu Jin answered without hesitation, I don't care about anyone. Then, she found that everyone looked at her with a little more pity for no reason. Did I say something wrong? Zhu Jin was puzzled. Qiu Changtai laughed, and his heart was also filled with warmth. He guessed what examples Yu Yinglan was giving. In the past, junior sister Zhu was always unwilling to accept the fact that I am weaker than senior brother, and now this competitive spirit has not changed. It's just because of love that she is willing to force herself to accept the fact and be inferior to senior brother. This is naturally not a great freedom, but will Zhu Yinglan regret it? As for Zhu Jin, this child is too young, and she won't understand if you tell her this. What about you two? Qiu Changtai looked at the other two. I'm Jiuan. Jiuan said, I also like reading and practicing. I hate troublesome things. My dream is to become the next head at Kunlin. Why do you want to be the head of Kunlin? Qiu Changtai asked in surprise. Because Master will definitely lead Kunlin to the peak. Jiuan replied, I just want to take shelter under the big tree planted by Master. So everyone laughed out loud, only Zhao Yunhu didn't laugh. The little girl still kept her poker face tightly and didn't say a word. Zhao Yunhu, what about you? Qiu Changtai pointed out. Me. Zhao Yunhu paused, I like smart people and hate stupid people. My dream is to take charge of the Guanzhou family and make those stupid old guys shut up. This guy is really bold. The other three disciples wiped her sweat, and only heard Qiu Changtai asked, are you dissatisfied with the elders in the family? They are all too stupid. Zhao Yunhu replied. For example? Qiu Changtai continued to ask. I'm not stupid. Zhao Yunhu replied, meaning that this matter involves family secrets. How could I tell you? The other three looked at her speechlessly, thinking, can you just scold the family elders? Qiu Changtai smiled and said, okay, I roughly understand you. Next, let's talk about cultivation. The teacher is practicing the 9 heavens pure land realm true words, but this key refining technique must be taught by the headmaster in person before it can be practiced. The teacher is communicating with the headmaster about this, so I can't teach you for the time being. Before the results come out, in addition to breathing and refining key, passing the 3 levels as soon as possible to enter the key refining stage, you must choose a fighting method for self-protection. At this point, Qiu Changtai pondered for a moment and said, Zhu Jin will practice Taoism first, Luo Chuan will learn sword-controlling skills, Jiuan can consider talismans or formations, Zhao Yunhu, what do you want to learn? I want to learn thunder magic. Zhao Yunhu said immediately. Okay, I'll teach you the thunder method. Qiu Changtai clapped his hands and smiled, after you went to the key refining stage, I'll arrange for you to fight each other so that you can understand the advantages and disadvantages of various fighting methods. Then, I'll arrange for you to choose again, how about it? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 879 Let you be happy first. Do you want me to teach them? Zhu Yinglan asked in surprise. Yes. Qiu Changtai said seriously, junior sister is more serious than me, and help me see what their personalities are like. This man has accumulated rich experience with Jingmo Envy and Mishi, and knows how to eat soft rice in order to make the other party accept it smoothly. Better than me and help me. As soon as these 2 words came out, Zhu Yinglan was indeed satisfied and agreed happily. Pushing the main task of teaching disciples to Zhu Yinglan, Qiu Changtai finally began to plan the most important task of this trip. How to get the fragment of the heaven repairing stone of the Immortal Cultivation. After careful inquiry, Qiu Changtai has roughly known that the Immortal Cultivation usually stays in the Tianmen Hall. There is a cave at the top of the Kunlun pillar, which was opened and completed in the ancient Kunlun period. There is a statue of Tai King God in it. It is said that those who worship can get supreme benefits. What Qiu Changtai can confirm is that the right to pass the cave must be in the hands of the Immortal Cultivation. As long as he has a thought, the cave of Tianmen Hall will immediately become a deadlock state, and not even a mosquito can fly out. In other words, it is necessary to take action when Kisan Immortal is not around. This immortal usually stays in Tianmen Hall most of the time, and no one knows what he is doing. Only a few times will he leave Kunlun to go out to do things. According to the perception of Kunlun Mirror, when Kisan Immortal is not in Tianmen Hall, the location of the fragment of booty and she has never changed. It should be in his chess basket, buried in the pile of chess pieces. But it is also known that there must be no traps in the chest basket. Maybe as soon as I put my hand in, Kisun Immortal will teleport to my side. One of the difficulties. How to take the fragment of booty and while Kisun Immortal is away. In addition, once the booty and she is stolen, Kisun Immortal will definitely notice it at the first time. When this news is passed to Changmei and Wongsai Immortal, the two will definitely increase their vigilance, making it more difficult for Ling Yunpo and Luoyang to succeed. The second difficulty. How to control the time just right, so that the three parties can obtain the heaven-fixing stone at the same time. No, it's 4 parties, and there is also the Hell Road that is always monitoring the world of cultivation. Considering these 2 difficulties together, it is easy to come to a conclusion. Make a big news, attract the 4 immortals to leave the sect, and then the 4 trumpets will take action at the same time to steal the heaven-fixing stone. Perfect. As for what the big news is, Qiu Changtai already has a vague idea. The secret realm of Kaibaho Chuan Yuan. The secret realm of Baiyuzheng attracted the 3 pure ones. The secret realm of Wang Jingke, the 6 parts of the demon cult also intervened. It can be speculated that once the secret realm of Kaibaho Chuan Yuan is opened, the entire world of cultivation will be shocked. As long as the immortals fight each other for the secret realm of Kaibaho Chuan Yuan, the trumpets hidden in the back can forcibly break the restrictions left by the immortals and take the fragment of the heaven-fixing stone. Of course, the general direction is to act in this way, but the specific details still need to be planned. For example, during the exploration of Kaibaho Chuan Yuan, it is unlikely that your trumpet will not be sent there. So how can you appear in the secret realm on the front line at the same time and steal the Tianxi stone in the rear? This requires careful planning. Before that, let's read Luoyang's file first. As the master of Qin sword, Ling Yunpo cannot form an essence soul in a short period of time, otherwise it will affect Qiu Changtai's invincible character. Luoyang does not have this trouble. After all, he is not well known in the righteous way. Secondly, for Tiangong Fang, especially Mishi, the nascent soul cultivator has a very special meaning. After telling her that she has formed a nascent soul, she will be very happy. Jin, read the file. Will she really be very happy? Kumlin Jing expressed doubt. Qiu Changtai has a genius or a bonus, so it is not surprising that he upgrades too quickly. Zisu and Su Jian are both careless in thinking. Ling Yunpo upgrades too quickly, and they will only think it is reasonable. Wei Dongli was a mysterious character. If he doesn't explain it himself, who knows that he has formed a nascent soul? As for Long Long, the Kanglong clan attributed it to his noble bloodliner, which was not wrong. After all, for the demon clan, the bloodliner rank was the only condition that affected the speed of cultivation. These 4 small accounts each had their reasons for upgrading quickly, but Luoyang was the only one who was too low-key and could not explain why his cultivation was so fast. A Luoyang gifted. There is no effect of speeding up cultivation with 1,000 understandings. Is there a big boss behind the scenes to help? Which big boss? Elder Shiding is dead, okay. But every time Luoyang's cultivation was improved, he never hid it from Shiluli, and always told her the good news as soon as possible. Although Shiluli didn't say it every time, God knows what she was thinking in her heart with Kunlun Mirror's understanding of her. It was impossible for her not to have doubts in her heart. Forget it, it's his family affair anyway, so I won't get involved. Kunlun Mirror thought so, and imagined the scene of Shiluli holding a compass in her left hand and a knife in her right hand after discovering the truth, chasing her husband to the ends of the earth, and couldn't help but look forward to it again. Location 3. Penglai Fairy Island, Yuking Temple. Identity of the character. Luoyang. The template of Mirror Flower and Water Moon is overwritten, and he is traveling through time and space. In the Tiangong workshop, Shiluli is forging a sword. The flames in the furnace are blazing, but they are dark blue ice crystal flames. When they jump, the cold air like water mist spreads out. It is obvious that Shiluli is forging a water flying sword at this time, and the grade seems to be not low. Now with the sword forging secret method on the Shenanbing, it seems that even if the cultivation is not enough, it is possible to cross the grade and forge a high-quality flying sword. Luoyang was thinking so proudly, and he heard Shiluli suddenly say with her back to him, "Wait, don't talk first, let me concentrate on forging this sword." Since she said so, Luoyang knew that Shiluli was at a critical moment at this time, so he sat beside her without saying a word. Shiluli finished outlining the runes on the sword, and then he breathed a long sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Go ahead." She began to seal the formation and used the forging hammer to continuously forge the sword. "My wife," Luoyang said carefully, "is your flying sword forged?" Not yet. Shirley replied, but the most critical moment has passed. What does my husband want to see me about? I have good news to tell you. Luo Yan said mysteriously. Good news. Shirley kept moving her hands, with a faint smile on her face, and said, then tell me. My husband has entered the nascent soul realm. Luo Yan said proudly. With a snap, Shirley actually broke the sword embryo. She turned her head in a daze and looked at Luo Yan in a daze. Nascent soul, when did it happen? Luo Yan hugged her and laughed. It happened recently. I didn't report it to the sect. I just want to make my wife happy first. Chapter 880. Prison Dragon. Well, there must be something wrong with my husband. This is obvious. How can a normal person's cultivation level improve so quickly? Shirley once secretly inquired about the sect's views on Luo Yan's rapid upgrade. Everyone seemed to agree that it must be some kind of epiphany. The so-called epiphany refers to the sudden enlightenment under certain circumstances of coincidence, which greatly increases the realm of cultivation. In addition to good fortune, this thing is also closely related to the cultivator's understanding. Therefore, in Penglai King Temple, which is full of high IQ talents, it is the most acceptable statement. However, if you have an epiphany once or twice, everyone can accept it. How can you directly realize and break through the nascent soul realm? Cheating, right? Although there is no concept of external plugins in this world, it does not prevent Shirley from thinking in a similar way. Similarly, the sect's top leaders must have doubts in the past. It's just because of the protection of the Wonxai Immortal that everyone would not say anything even if they doubted it. After all, Luo Yan's cultivation level is increasing rapidly, which is not bad for the sect, right? But this leap from the Golden Core realm to the nascent soul realm, too fast, too fast. I must think of a way to help my husband cover it up. Husband. Shirley hugged Luo Yan and said in a deep voice, if possible, don't tell the sect about this for now. I think so too. Luo Yan nodded and said, just tell my wife secretly. Yeah. Shirley sighed in her heart, feeling annoyed by her husband's carelessness, but when she thought that he even kept it a secret from the sect, but was completely unreserved to herself, she suddenly felt a little sweet. After a moment of tenderness with Luo Yan, Shirley began to make arrangements to eliminate the so-called too fast upgrade trouble for him. The psychological preparation must be done for the top management. The nascent soul cannot be formed just by saying it, but must follow the steps if cultivation is complete, starting to pass the tribulation, and successfully passing the tribulation so that it will not appear too abrupt. Of course, starting to pass the tribulation and successfully passing the tribulation are all natural things. The real problem is how to find a reason for perfecting cultivation that people can believe and not think too much about. She found the Wonxai Immortal and said, Luo Yan has been worried about his stagnant cultivation recently. His cultivation is stagnant. Wonxai Immortal was shocked. With Luo Yan's rapid progress in the Jinnan realm in the past, if he is a little slower now, it is called stagnation of cultivation, then what is the speed of breathing and refining for others? Is it regression? Seeing the Wonxai Immortal's disapproval, Shirley sighed and said, there are two reasons why my husband is so anxious. First, it is because of his worry about his deceased father. My deceased father was ambushed by the thief at the heavenly demon and died. This is one of my husband's worries. The blood feud must be avenged, so he tossed and turned in bed, wishing to immediately form a baby and avenge his master. Wonxai Immortal stroked his beard and agreed with Shirley's statement, and at the same time felt a little guilty. Elder Shiding is not only the master of Jinyun's Hinran, but also the elder of Yu King Temple in Penglai. He was killed by the demon cult in a sneak attack, and even his disciples were obsessed with revenge. However, the sect did not express anything, as if they had completely forgotten about it. It was really unreasonable. The temple was also very sad when Shiding died in the past. Wonxai Immortal said ashamedly, thinking that Jinyun was such a loyal child, so he should help him. Secondly, it is for the consideration of the sect. Shirley continued, the sect was besieged by the demon cult before, and suffered heavy losses. Now that the era of great strife has arrived, what should we do if the demon cult besieges Penglai again in the future? That's why my husband wants to form a baby as soon as possible, at least if the sect encounters a disaster again, at least we had the ability to help. If someone else said this, Wonxai Immortal would definitely suspect whether the other party was deliberately trying to please him. But Jinyun had contributed too much to the sect. Not to mention Baoxing and Wang Jinkei, even if he found the Shenanting in the secret realm, didn't he hand it over to the sect immediately? Jinyun is a good kid. Thinking of this, coupled with his previous guilt, Wonxai Immortal no longer doubted him, sighed, and said, "You must complete the Jinnan realm as soon as possible. I don't have any suitable elixirs here for the time being, but there is a secret realm that may be useful to Jinnoon." He told Shillelagh the location of the secret realm in detail, and finally said, "Now the demon cult is so powerful that even Kumling can't do anything about it. It would be a good thing if your husband could form a baby as soon as possible. Just tell him not to rush it. After all, it's better to be down to earth and steady, alas." As he spoke, Wonxai Immortal felt that it was not good to interfere too much, so he stopped talking. Shillelagh also knew what the immortal meant, so he bowed down and thanked him solemnly. With this foreshadowing, if Luoyan wants to cultivate to perfection in the future, it will become the guidance of the Wonxai Immortal, which makes sense. Of course, the clues to this secret realm cannot be wasted. My husband has already formed a baby, so naturally he doesn't need it, so he can only give it to me. Thinking of this, Shillelagh returned to Tiangongfang and told Luoyan the situation in detail. In short, my husband should report to the sect first, and then we will go to explore this secret realm. After coming back, my husband said that thanks to the guidance of the immortal, he has completed the away level of cultivation and is ready to form a baby to survive the tribulation. I see. Luoyan asked hesitantly, in that case, the sect will definitely ask about my tribulation, and maybe even help me survive the tribulation to protect the law, but where can I find this heavenly tribulation to survive? It doesn't matter. Shillelagh said calmly, I will arrange everything, my husband can rest assured. Luoyan likes to hear this sentence the most. Shillelagh arranged all the tedious tasks in Tiangong workshop in an orderly manner, which proved that his wife was indeed a meticulous person. Therefore, Luoyan was no longer worried, but left Penglai Island with Shillelagh and flew towards Shenzhou. According to the Wonxai Immortal, there is a dry well called Prison Dragon Well in the imperial capital, where an ancient dragon is imprisoned. Drinking its dragon blood can quickly dissolve the golden elixir, and the power will also increase significantly, which is equivalent to speeding up the passage through the UA level. This secret sounds too strange. If it is from the classics, Luoyan will not believe a word of it. There is a dragon hidden under the capital. Even if it is Yinglong, it needs the locking demon tower to suppress it. Is the capital sealed by the Gutian stone or the Shenanbing? Can an ancient dragon be imprisoned underground and not discovered for so many years? But since this is what the Wonxai Immortal said, it cannot be regarded as an ordinary rumor. So the two of them came to the capital and searched for a long time, checking almost every well, but they did not find any trace of the ancient dragon at all. Chapter 881 I'm all for Tiangongfang. Drinking dragon blood can accelerate the transformation of the golden elixir, thereby greatly speeding up that growth of the cultivation of the subtle stage. Luoyan is sure of this. After all, it was with the help of the dragon blood pill sponsored by the old dragon immortal that he reached the great perfection of the golden elixir realm in a very short time. But this prison dragon well, I really don't know whether it is true or not. The Wonxai Immortal should not lie. Shillelagh replied, and according to the hexagram, we will not return empty-handed this time. Luoyan did not speak, thinking in his heart. We have been looking for it here for 100 or 200 years before finding the prison dragon well, which is not considered to be returning empty-handed, but is it worth it? The key is when can we find it? But it's not bad to travel around with my wife like this. If I didn't have the heavy responsibility of seeking to seize the sky-making stone, it would be very good to live in seclusion with Lily in this capital. Luoyan was lost in thought when he suddenly heard Shillelagh say, what if we can't find that dragon prison well? Husband, how did you make it from the away stage to the great perfection of the golden core realm? Luoyan suddenly became nervous, thinking that he was starting to question my background. However, he had been prepared and knew that he could not use adventure or secret realm to prevaricate, because Shillelagh would definitely ask, what adventure or secret realm? So he replied, Luli, didn't we get a bottle of elixir last time we went to the Shenangjia secret realm? Oh. Shillelagh also remembered it. After all, Luoyan had counted all the things obtained from the old dragon with her in the back. Didn't they say that only the dragon clan can take the thing? Yes. Luoyan replied, Luli, have you heard of the 9-turn red phoenix pill? If I remember correctly, it should be some kind of ancient elixir made with the real blood of the phoenix. Shillelagh continued, taking it can increase the power of the water level. That's right. Luoyan smiled and said, since the elixir made with the real blood of the phoenix can be taken by humans, then why can't humans take the elixir made with dragon blood? Because phoenix blood is warm and soothing, while dragon blood is fierce and vigorous. Shilly replied, Phoenix blood pill can be suppressed by cultivation, and the medicinal power can be slowly digested. But dragon blood pill will burn immediately after entering the stomach, making it difficult to forcibly suppress the medicinal power, and it may even backfire on the body. That's right. Luo Yan nodded and continued, but compared to the benefits of forcibly digesting the medicinal power, I think this risk is worth taking. Shilly listened in silence, but her heart was filled with turmoil. Could it be that her husband took the risk of taking the dragon blood pill for Tiangong workshop, in order to enter the nascent soul realm as soon as possible? Thinking of this, the resentment that she had originally brewed because Luo Yan left everything alone and she had to worry about everything in Tiangong workshop, now disappeared without a trace, leaving only the indescribable heartache and sadness. Seeing Shilly remained silent, Luo Yan knew that his rhetoric had worked, and he quickly added, when the master left, Tiangong workshop no longer had a nascent soul cultivator. Luo, your fragility and anxiety, your husband, I have seen. Rather than being a risk, forcing yourself to take the dragon blood pill is a choice made after careful consideration. But, Shilly choked up a little, then you don't have to. Now that your husband has been promoted to the nascent soul stage, let's not talk about those bad things in the past. Luo Yan hugged her tightly to stop her from delving further. In the future, we must carry forward the Tiangong workshop left by the master. The two continued to be affectionate for a while, and Shilly really stopped questioning, just said, since my husband has already formed a nascent soul, I also have to improve my cultivation as soon as possible, so as not to continue to hold you back. I thought about it for a long time just now, and I think what the immortal said may not be wrong. Maybe we misunderstood. Mistakenly understood? Luo Yan asked curiously. We have searched for all the wells, big and small, in this capital city. How could we be wrong? The capital city that the immortal is talking about may not be the capital city we are looking for now. Shilly reminded. This sentence, like a wake-up call, immediately made Luo Yan suddenly enlightened. How old is the Wangxiang immortal? His lifespan is at least 10,000 years. In the past 10,000 years, the secular regimes of the Shenzhou continent have changed dynasties countless times, and the capital city may have been burnt down and rebuilt many times. Not to mention the layout of the city, even the location of the entire city may not be the original location. And the capital city that the Wangxiang immortal is talking about must not refer to the current capital city, but to the ancient capital city of a certain era in his memory. It would be strange if it can overlap with the current capital city. In other words, what we are looking for is actually a well in an ancient capital city. Luo Yan sighed and said, when do we have to find it? Look for the ruins near the capital city. Shilly said. This is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Luo Yan was embarrassed to say this, and suddenly an idea came to his mind, and he immediately said, oh, right, we can use the Wanlei Water Vein's magical travel talisman. Last time in the Sheneng secret realm, the two found a scrapped Wanlei Water Vein's magical travel talisman. Although this talisman is disposable and cannot be used again, Luo Yan cleverly scanned the patterns on it and then reproduced it into a formation, and indeed teleported the two to the nearby closed waters. In other words, if the Wanlei Water Vein's magical travel formation is used here, it is possible to teleport to the prison dragon well. Of course, it is also possible to teleport to the nearby residents' bathtubs, sewers, or even manure pits. Shilly was silent for a moment and asked, do you want to use it? Luo Yan also thought of this possibility, and said with a wry smile, forget it. Although the cultivators are not afraid of anything, it is better to avoid things like manure pits. After all, this is not a secret realm, but a metropolis of the human race. God knows what kind of messy water bodies there will be. So the two of them could only fly around the capital. Shilly made several more divinations and took Luo Yan to a nearby wasteland. This is probably a mass grave. Wherever there are more human races, there are always poor people who die for various reasons. Their families cannot afford a good cemetery, so they can only dig a pit outside with a straw mat to bury them. The place where the poor choose to bury them is the so-called mass grave. It should be here. Shilly finally found a dry well and pointed down. Luo Yan put his palms together, and the 5 elements of divine light were stimulated, and then they flowed endlessly downwards, and soon dug a deep hole in the dry well. The two looked at each other for a moment, then jumped up and stepped on the sword light, and rushed down quickly along the dry well. After a while, they fell into an underground cave somewhere. The in energy here is a bit strong. Luo Yan frowned and said, I'm afraid there is a vein of the 9 nether yellow spring nearby, my lady, please be careful. Chapter 882 Blood Puppet and Ancient Dragon. Jiaowang, the negative pole of the Earth, is the residence of the souls of the dead. In ancient times, Jiaowang once erupted due to the flood of yin qi, causing ghosts to appear all over Shenzhou and causing heavy casualties to the human race. Later, Shannon cast 9 tripods and placed them in the 9 provinces of the world to suppress the earth veins, and then sealed Jiaowang underground, so that it could not erupt wantonly. Of course, there are still some sporadic branches of the earth veins, exposed in many unknown dark corners, leaking yin qi, which is ultimately inevitable. This underground space is obviously a branch of Wangquan. Mortals who stay here for a while will either suffer a serious illness or vomit blood on the spot, and yin evil will enter the body and die suddenly. For Luoyan and Shiluli, although they are not afraid of the invasion of yin qi, they still feel uncomfortable. Shiluli walked in front, and Luoyan took out the 7 treasure body glass branch behind and brushed the Buddha's light on the 2. Sure enough, the lingering cold feeling around him dissipated a lot. Walking through the long underground corridor, Luoyan carefully looked around and could confirm that it was a naturally formed passageway without any traces of artificial polishing. The deeper you go, the thicker the energy becomes. If a ghost king or zombie is buried in this place, it will probably turn into a drought demon in a minute. However, Luoyan is now in the nascent soul realm and is no longer afraid of those monsters and ghosts. As long as they are not immortals, even if they are in the nascent soul realm and have half a foot in the threshold of feathering, I will kill them. As soon as he turned the corner, Luoyan suddenly shouted, "Be careful." Shiluli's actual combat experience was still lacking. When she heard the word "be careful," she did not use the flying sword magic weapon to prepare for attack, but retreated subconsciously. As she retreated, an attack came from the shadow and rushed straight to her heart. Luoyan remained calm in that face of danger behind her. He pointed his hand and the fanchen seal was directly smashed, instantly smashing the opponent into the shadow. The two looked carefully and saw that the one who launched the attack seemed to be a large slime. This name was too dramatic, but after being smashed by the fanchen seal, the opponent was left with only a blood-red mud, and it was really impossible to distinguish the shape and outline. My husband beat it too hard. Shiluli observed from the side. There are no bone fragments, it seems to be made of pure flesh and soft tissue. Indeed. Luoyan scanned it carefully for a moment, and then said confidently, "It should be a creation of some kind of blood evil magic." "Creation?" Shiluli said in surprise. "Luli, have you heard of dragon puppets?" Luoyan asked. "Well, I've heard a little bit about it." Shiluli replied, "It is said that the Jialong clan has done a lot of research in the field of blood, and can refine all kinds of creatures into their puppets, and then carry out various unethical transformations." "That's right." Luoyan added, "Although the dragon puppet technique is based on blood and flesh, most of them are meat puppets. After all, blood contains the origin of racial characteristics, which will affect the stability of the dragon puppet technique. And the one in front of us should be the blood puppet, which is a more unconventional one in the dragon puppet technique." "I see." Shiluli nodded and said, "Since there is a blood puppet, it means that there is indeed a dragon in the prison dragon well. The blood of the blood puppet has the property of pollution." Luoyan continued, "A single blood puppet is often not difficult to deal with, just be careful not to be splashed by its blood." "What if there are a large number of blood puppets?" Shiluli looked forward. I saw that the passage ahead was already surging with dense blood puppets. Although these guys have the shape of humans, they all have flesh but no skin, and their blood vessels and meridians are directly exposed to the outside, which looks extremely terrifying and creepy. Shiluli quickly made hand gestures and activated the secret technique of the Southern Dipper Galaxy, flushing the water of the Milky Way forward. Unexpectedly, the blood puppets turned into countless blood water when they met water, and quickly rolled up along the Milky Way, rushing towards the unprepared Shiluli. "A trifle, showing off your skills in front of an expert." Luoyan sneered, and urged the 5 elements divine light to brush the blood water that was rushing towards him, immediately washing it all away without a trace, and directly annihilating it. "Husband," Shiluli said calmly, "I'm afraid we are being monitored." "Yeah." Luoyan also nodded. A blood puppet sneak attacked Shiluli and was seriously injured by the fanchen seal. Then these blood puppets used the blood transformation technique that was not afraid of physical attacks. If it wasn't someone behind the scenes directing and arranging it, what else could it be? But it doesn't matter. With Lily's ability to calculate and my absolute strength, no matter how you struggle, it's useless. As the two of them continued to go deeper, no more blood puppets appeared. It seemed that the other party had realized that no matter how many of these inferior creatures there were, they could not be Luo Yan's opponents. Instead, the air was filled with a faint blood mist that became increasingly dense, and it was filled with a nauseating sweet fragrance. It's poisonous, Luo Yan suddenly said. Is it? Shili frowned and asked. In danger, she did not stop fortune-telling with the copper coin in her hand, and the hexagram showed that there was no danger for the time being. If there is no poison, why do you have to go to the trouble of releasing these blood mists? Luo Yan said confidently, it must be poisonous. He took out a magic weapon from the Tiangong Bai Bahu bag, which was a leaf fan, injected true energy to activate it, and waved it forward, and a strong wind blew, blowing away all the blood mist. What other tricks do you have? Use them as soon as possible. The other party probably ran out of tricks, and then let a large number of blood puppets launch suicidal attacks, and ambushed, sneak attacked, and attacked from both sides, almost using every possible means. If only Shilili was here, he would most likely fall into the opponent's trap, but how experienced is Luo Yan? Just a scan, any tricks in his eyes that can see through everything, are simply invisible. In this way, the two finally came to the depths of the ground. They saw that this place was a huge cursed cave, which was very similar in style to the underwater cursed cave in the previous Shen and Gjie secret realm. A weak dragon, with its lower body trapped in the ground and only its upper body exposed, was now weakly pinching a human corpse to play. When Luo Yan and Shilili stepped into the cursed cave, they saw the dragon wave its claws and throw the corpse aside, saying, "Two little human babies, you have some strength to come here. Tell me, what are you doing here?" Shilili frowned slightly and looked at the corpse in the distance, thinking that if this demon really killed people wantonly, would it be a lie to say this? Luo Yan had a keen eye, and after scanning the body, he found that there was a lot of dirt on it, and he knew that it was a newly dead body buried in the mass grave outside, and that the ancient dragon had used some method to get it done for fun. He stepped forward and said loudly, "I heard that there is a method to achieve the great perfection of the golden core realm here, so my husband and I came here to look for it." Chapter 883 Fragment. A method to achieve the great perfection of the golden core realm. The dragon sneered and said, "Look at me like this, what method can I use?" The two looked carefully and found that the crack on the ground was actually the entrance to a ground vein. If there is no proper way to suppress the entrance of an ordinary ground vein, the inky inside will inevitably leak out. When the area around becomes an extremely in place, ghosts will begin to overflow, and finally a large area of death within 100 miles will be a dead land, with no grass growing. However, this place has existed for so many years, and the inky has always been entrenched underground and has not leaked out. The reason is that this dragon sacrificed himself for others and blocked the crack in the ground with his lower body, but judging from the other party's appearance, it seems that he did not do it voluntarily. Luo Yan was silent for a while, and said, "Senior did not deny it directly, but asked in return, which means that there is indeed such a method." Humph. The dragon rested his head on his front paws and said with his eyes closed, "A little clever, right? In that case, I'll say it. As long as you can save me from trouble, I will give you dragon blood pill and teach you how to refine it. How about it?" "Nothing," Shilili replied. "Senior does not believe that we can save you from trouble, otherwise you would not have such an attitude. If you really want us to do something, you can just quote the price." "What can I ask you to do?" The dragon said disdainfully, "Except helping me out of trouble, there is nothing else for you to do." Shilili looked at Luo Yan helplessly, meaning what to do. Luo Yan thought to himself, this ancient dragon seems a little arrogant. Since you are willing to pay attention to us, you must have something to ask us, why not just say it directly? "Senior, did you voluntarily get trapped here to prevent the earth veins from leaking and endangering the human world?" He pretended to admire and said, "You're a noble man, I admire you." It would have been better if he hadn't said this, but once he said it, Gilong was really angry. The other party opened his lantern-sized, yellow eyes and stared at Luo Yan, gritting his teeth and said angrily, "Who told you that I voluntarily got trapped here? If not, how could anyone trap you here with your power?" Luo Yan said with a smile and compliment. "You don't understand?" Of course, the dragon subconsciously said this, then suddenly paused for a moment, sneered, "You are trying to trick me, right? Senior, there is nothing I can do about the hatred between you and others." Luo Yan finally replied, "But if I can pass on the news and tell you about the situation in the outside world, it's no problem." He had already thought clearly at this time that this dragon had been trapped here for hundreds of thousands of years, and what he wanted to know most was definitely the news from the outside world. Just like becoming Fanyan, on the one hand, he was eager to know more, and on the other hand, he was suspicious and afraid of being deceived. Isn't this the virtue of the dragon clan? As for saving it from trouble, even if we have the ability, we will never save it. This ancient dragon should understand. Sure enough, the dragon's face changed several times when he heard this, and then he suddenly seemed to have no strength, and slowly said, "The information I want to know, you can't provide it." Senior hasn't asked any questions yet. How do you know we can't provide it? Luoyang said with a smile. Don't think I don't know. Jialong sneered again. Now the outside world is dominated by humans, and the rest of the demons have withdrawn to the East Empire realm, right? What I want to know is nothing more than the situation of the Jialong clan. The East Empire realm is separated from you by a chasm, and you are not a demon, so how can you know the information I want? Luoyang was silent for a moment after hearing this, thinking that if you ask someone else, they probably won't know anything, but you found the right person. In this world of cultivation, is there anyone who knows more about the Jialong clan than me? However, Shili was right beside him, so Luoyang did not say it explicitly, but transmitted his voice in secret. I wonder how long you have been here, senior? How much do you know about the Jialong clan? Otherwise, I don't know where to start. We formed an alliance with the Black Turtle to become the Chuan clan and dominated Thongzhou, did you know that? We unified the Eastern Empire realm and established the Jialong dynasty, did you know that? Emperor Yinlong's expedition was defeated and the imperial family collapsed, did you know that? The lonely city of Beiming Fanning and the swan song of the Jialong survivors, did you know that? As Luoyang continued speaking according to the timeline, the Jialong's expression suddenly became extremely wonderful, as if Jinluo had heard about the rise and fall of Rome for the first time. He was first excited, then ecstatic, then angry, and finally a long-lasting and indescribable sadness. The dragon just opened his mouth, but noticed that the other party was speaking in secret, and it was obvious that he didn't want the girl next to him to hear him, so he pretended to be disdainful and said, "Forget it, since you are human, it is impossible for you to understand the secrets of our dragon clan. But tell me about the changes in the situation in the cultivation world." Shili had already become a little suspicious when he saw its expression changing so quickly, but when he saw that the old dragon wanted to hear about the situation in the world again, he could only put aside his doubts for the time being and explain to him in detail. The dragon just nodded to show that he was listening. In fact, he didn't care about Kunlin, Shushan, and Penglai at all. He just whispered to Luoyang, "What do you know? Tell me in detail. This information can't be given for free." Luoyang said with a smile, "After I tell you a quarter, you must give me the dragon blood pill. After I tell you a half, you must pass on the refining method. After I tell you 3/4, you must explain the risks and key points in the refining process. Wait until my wife takes the medicine on the spot and completely refines the medicinal power, then I will tell you the last quarter." The dragon was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Let's not talk about anything else. Just because the other party put the situation after the decline of the Dragon Clan last to explain, and specifically pointed out that it was necessary to wait until Shillelagh completely refined the medicinal power, it can be said that he accurately grasped the lifeblood of this dragon. No need to mention the past glory, the key is what is happening now. Okay. The dragon agreed without hesitation. You start with the alliance with the Black Tortoise. So, when Shillelagh was talking about the differences in the ideologies between the good and evil sides, Luoyang also began to talk about how the Dragon Clan and the Black Tortoise Clan arrived at the North Sea when they first entered the East Empire realm, and then they formed an alliance with each other and agreed to share the North Province. He said, later, the dragons became stronger and stronger, and they were vaguely dissatisfied with the sharing of the North Province in the past. You must know that you cannot allow others to snore on your bed. So he set his sights on the center of the world, Thongzhou. Then he fell silent. The dragon was listening to a part that was so fascinating that he suddenly stopped talking. He was so angry that he immediately spit out a drop of dragon blood and roared, "Take it, continue quickly." Chapter 884 Luoyang's history. To be honest, Luoyang felt that the Jialong clan had a bit of a weird personality. On the one hand, they had a similar xenophobic personality to the Yu clan, and were very wary of everything in the outside world. On the other hand, once someone caught them in a trap, they would immediately give up and surrender, faster than anyone else. Facing Jialong's repeated urging of what's next? What's next? Luoyang completely ignored it, just put the drop of blood in it, and then frowned and said, "Didn't you say it was the dragon blood pill? How did it become dragon blood? My wife told you so many secrets of the cultivation world, and you only give us this? Who wants to hear about the secrets of the cultivation world? What I want to hear is the history of the Jialong clan after I was trapped." Jialong roared in his heart, but said disdainfully, "My blood is the dragon blood pill. Since you came here for this, don't you even know this? This blood can't be swallowed directly." Shilui asked slowly, "If you are not afraid of death, you can just eat it directly." Jialong said with a sneer. "Okay." Luoyang interrupted him and said, "You are willing to hand over the refining method only if I continue to tell you these secrets, right? Then tell me." Luoyang continued to say, "The Jialong clan left Bizhou to the Black Turtle and went as Thongzhou. After countless hardships, they finally conquered the Hong clan. The Shenlong Tower in the imperial capital rose from the ground, marking the initial foundation of their hegemony. The Jialong did not seem to be very happy, but instead had a feeling of gritting his teeth. When it was mentioned that the Jialong clan relied on the geographical advantages of Thongzhou and the alliance with the Black Turtle clan of Bizhou to conquer all directions and finally establish the Jialong dynasty, the Jialong snorted coldly and said disdainfully in the voice transmission, "It's just luck. If there was no alliance with the Black Turtle clan, how could it be so easy to conquer the other 3 states? And in my opinion, it can't be considered a conquest. It's just that they saw that the alliance of your 2 states was too powerful and didn't want to fight you head-on." "Senior, your opinion is great," Luoyang complimented calmly, and secretly guessed in his heart. "This Jialong, it seems that before being trapped here, the relationship with the clan was very bad." "You don't have to guess," Jialong said coldly, "I'm the main practitioner of the blood puppet school in my clan, and I am not on good terms with their meat puppet school. After I was trapped here, the blood puppet school has probably declined. I was upset to hear that their meat puppet school led the Jialong clan to revive. Isn't that normal? It turned out to be a dispute over the orthodoxy," Luoyang laughed in his heart. "Just look at Shushan to see how fierce the dispute over the orthodoxy is. The irony is that both sides think that their own schools are for the good of the organization, and that the other party's school is endangering the organization, so they want to defeat the other party at all costs. To win the dispute over the orthodoxy, one can only wait for one party to crush the other party and force the other party to bow its head. Now it seems that this Jialong has fallen into this situation because he lost in the dispute over the orthodoxy. When thinking about the various spells Shio gave him, there doesn't seem to be any spell for manipulating blood, so Luoyang can probably be sure of this." After talking about the establishment of the Dragon Tower and the City of Monsters, Luoyang stopped talking at the right time, just looking at the dragon meaningfully. The dragon was very upset. On the one hand, he felt very uncomfortable being controlled by others, but on the other hand, he really wanted to know how the Dragon Clan fell into decline. This is where Luoyang's insidiousness can be reflected. If he had not mentioned the decline of the Dragon Clan before, it would not have been a problem if he stopped here. But now, it is already known that the Dragon Clan is in trouble, and the enemy who caused the whole clan to fall into this situation is still unknown. How can the dragon, who was born with a grudge, give up? Listen carefully. The dragon did not waste words, but just explained the method of sacrifice and refining to Shilui in detail. Dragon blood is fierce, and non-dragons often cannot bear it, so the dragon blood must be sealed in multiple layers. After absorbing it into the body, refine one layer, then unseal another layer, and so on and so forth, which is extremely troublesome. Seeing Shilui looking embarrassed, Jialong couldn't help but feel a little pleased, but thinking that he was still waiting for Luoyang to say the next word, he immediately pretended to be selfless and said, "I have not hidden anything," and just whispered to Luoyang, "I have also told you the method of sacrifice and refining. As for the key point, you tell me how Jialong fell." Then Luoyang began to elaborate on the matter of Emperor Yinglong, saying that his father-in-law was born with a very high bloodline and was a rare genius in the Jialong clan in 10,000 years. He maintained an alliance with the North State, actively married into the West State, secretly made friends with the East State, fought and eliminated the South State, and finally held the whole world firmly in his hands. The status of the Jialong royal family became more and more consolidated. This time, Jialong was quite satisfied with what he heard. After all, what he hated was only the meat puppet faction of the time, and he would not have a grudge against the descendants who are separated by who knows how many generations, so he kept saying, that's right, command all the monsters, and none dare to disobey." This is the dominance that our Jialong clan should have. Luo Yan sneered in his heart, and talked about how Emperor Yinglong insisted on marrying the daughter of the criminal, which shocked the world. I thought the dragon would change his face and curse, but he didn't think so. He said, since he is the emperor, he can marry whoever he wants. Who dares to talk about the emperor's family affairs? Isn't it bad to bully the dragon clan? That, Luo Yan was silent for a moment, and said, the dragon clan at the time didn't seem to agree with it, ridiculous. The dragon finally got angry, with such a hero in the clan, we should support him with all our strength. How dare someone go against the clan leader? Then, he suddenly seemed to remember something, and he became uninterested, sighing, go on. Luo Yan talked about Emperor Yinglong's expedition to the human world, which ended in a miserable defeat and never returned. The dragon clan faced criticism from the world, and the new emperor adopted a peace attitude. Hearing the dragon cursing, his claws scratched the ground frantically. How ridiculous, how ridiculous. The more dangerous the situation, the tougher it is. Choosing peace, isn't it the same as showing weakness? In this case, the reputation of the royal family is gone. Luo Yan laughed in his heart, thinking that it might not be the case. Many times, choosing to be tough or showing weakness is essentially a gamble. There are many cases in history of those who chose to be tough and then suffered a great defeat, and those who chose to show weakness and finally made a comeback. If the dragon clan refused to make peace at the time, it might have frightened the surrounding forces with ulterior motives, but it might also have been attacked by the crowd. On the gambling table, before the bet was opened, who could know the result? Luo Yan continued. After apology to the world, humiliating treaty, it was the emperor was stabbed, 3 dragons fought for the throne, and finally the prince fled, and the unicorn entered the capital. After these 3 operations were performed, the dragon looked as pale as death, and he didn't even have the strength to shout bastard. Chapter 885. Dragon Transformation. Returning to origin formation. Jialong really couldn't imagine why a good game of dominating the world would be beaten into that state in the end. He also suspected whether Luo Yan was lying, but there were many detailed details here. On the one hand, there were too many to be made up, and on the other hand, with Jialong's understanding of that tribe, those Jialong people were indeed capable of doing those things. Thinking of this, he felt very bleak. He could guess the story behind it without Luo Yan saying it. The royal family that once ruled the world suddenly fell one day, and the throne was stolen by someone. What the usurper would do to suppress the previous dynasty was almost beyond guessing. It must be to kill them. Senior? Luo Yan reminded him in secret. Jialong suppressed his worries and asked casually, human kid, why do you think the Jialong clan declined? The cycle of heaven is the law of prosperity and decline. Luo Yan replied, even if Emperor Yinglong's expedition had not failed, it would have declined sooner or later because of something else. Alas. Jialong couldn't refute this statement, and could only sigh and blow out countless cold air. Shili didn't know that the man and the dragon were communicating in secret. He just talked about 100,000 gods and demons attacking Penglai, and suddenly saw the old dragon sighing, and doubt suddenly arose in his heart. Our Penglai was perceived by the demon cult, why is this old dragon sighing? Of course, she would not understand that the old dragon sighed for Penglai. She only heard Jialong say, well, I roughly know it. Now I will tell you the key to refining dragon blood. He then explained the key points of the refining technique in detail. It turns out that dragon blood is too strong, so it is necessary to apply multiple seals before taking it. After swallowing it into the mountain, the seals are slowly released, digesting one layer at a time. And the most critical step is when to release the seal. If it is released too quickly, the fierce poison of the dragon blood will burst out, and the cultivator will be forced to spit out the dragon blood and fail. In severe cases, the poison will spread to the limbs and bones, and the body will be damaged, and it will be difficult for the gods to save it. But if it is released too slowly, the dragon blood will be inactivated after being sealed for a long time, and it will still not work. Shili listened to him talking for a long time. In short, it is better to be slow than fast, but not too slow. She judged that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 points that can be unlocked. If it were other cultivators here, they would probably be dizzy, but Mishi is not stupid. She tried hard to memorize it and remembered about 80% of it. Luo Yan also had the ability to remember everything he saw and the ability to scan with a mirror. After Jialong finished speaking, he repeated it to Shili verbally, so the 80% became 100%. Shili sat cross-legged, swallowed the dragon blood, and began to try to operate the refining method. Luo Yan was protecting her by her side, and she heard Jialong suddenly asked, You're obviously a human, why do you know so much about Jialong? This is not within the scope of our transaction. Luo Yan smiled and replied. It's okay, I just asked casually. The dragon showed a very lonely expression and said, I once hated them for forgetting me and cursed them to die a bad death, but when I heard the news that the tribe was so desolate, in the end, I felt nothing but sadness, and didn't feel the slightest sense of fulfillment. Maybe it's a good thing that I'm trapped here, at least I don't have to watch the tribe fall into such a state. Luo Yan saw that the dragon was dejected and his eyelids drooped. For a moment, he didn't know whether to comfort him. After about half an hour, Shili opened his eyes and wanted to speak, but he burped and vomited a blood mist from his stomach. Luo Yan was slightly surprised and quickly scanned his wife's body. He didn't find anything unusual, but the golden elixir had already dissolved most of it. I think if I practice for a while longer, I will be able to successfully pass the away level and reach the great perfection of the golden elixir realm. Thinking of this, Luo Yan suddenly felt a little uneasy. He felt that he seemed to care too much about Shilili's progress in cultivation, and ignored junior sisters Yu and senior sister An. But then he thought, junior sisters Yu has the care of Ziwi's sect master and Tianan's Yu family, and senior sister An has Su Jian's protection. How could these two lack cultivation resources? Only my poor white Luli, without the support of her father-in-law and mother-in-law, can only rely on herself for everything. This husband treats his wife just like parents treat their children. It is normal to be partial in some aspects. For example, the eldest son worked hard to become a senior executive of a company, and the second son couldn't even find a partner while delivering food and doing odd jobs. If the parents support the two children and even distribute the inheritance, and treat them all equally, then the parents are probably out of their minds. If Mishi could suddenly soar to the sky like Witch Jiang, I wouldn't be so partial to her. Thinking of this, Luo Yan felt at ease again. After spitting out the excess blood and qi, Shili was not in a hurry to get up, but just saluted the dragon again. Thank you for your support, senior. Yes. The dragon didn't even open his eyes, but said lightly, finish the rest, and then you can leave. Shili thought that she was going to continue to talk about the history of the cultivation world, and since her cultivation had just increased a lot, she temporarily put aside her previous doubts and continued to fulfill her promise. On the other side, Luo Yan also told the dragon in detail about the whereabouts and results of several survivors of the dragon clan after they left the imperial capital. I see. Hearing that some of the clan members took refuge with Kangong, while others practiced isolationism in Beiming Fanyan, the dragon probably had an idea in his mind. In any case, as long as the bloodline is passed on, it's not too bad after all. The dragon had lowered its psychological expectations to bloodline is passed on, which made Luo Yan feel a little pitiful. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind, and he asked the other party, Senior, if there are mixed races of the Jialong clan and other races, and there are conflicts between the bloodliness, how to resolve them? No need to resolve them. The Jialong replied lazily, the demon bloodliner is the law of the jungle, and in most cases, the higher level bloodliner will devour the lower level bloodliner. If the ranks of the two are almost equal, it depends on the proportion inherited from the parents. In short, multiple different bloodliners will not coexist for too long, and they will generally be assimilated into one within 5 years after birth, leaving only one demon bloodliner. What if one has 3 bloodliners at the same time, and the other 2 unite to resist the previous one? Luo Yan asked unwillingly. How is that possible? The Jialong retorted subconsciously, first of all, we are all born by our parents, and we have at most 2 bloodliners. Where does the third one come from? Oh, if the father or mother has 2 bloodliners at the same time for some reason, it is not impossible, but if these 3 bloodliners fight each other, the individual itself will die within a few hours after birth. Why should we consider how to solve the problem? You're right, but you didn't know there was such a thing as the sky-burnt stone. Luo Yan broke the casserole and asked a third time. Suppose there is such an individual, how to solve it? The Jialong seemed a little impatient and replied. Use the dragon transformation and return to origin ray to merge the 3 bloodliners into a new bloodliner. Then this dragon transformation and return to origin ray, do you think I have the ability to set up the array for you? The Jialong sneered and asked him back, this array is a secret of our clan. It requires many precious resources and cannot be done by an individual. Since you know our Jialong clan very well, why don't you just go to the clan and ask? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 886. Elder Jim Noon, famous in Penglai Dragon transformation, returned to origin formation. A special ceremony to fuse many different bloodliners into a brand new bloodliner. Luoyang secretly noted these down, and seeing that the dragon put its head on its claws, it was obvious that it had no intention of continuing to talk, so he said to Shiluli, "Luli, let's go." "Yes." Shiluli stood up gracefully. The two returned to the outside along the original path, and only heard Shiluli say, "In this way, no matter how fast your cultivation improves, it can be attributed to the dragon head in the dragon prison well." "Yes." Luoyang nodded and said, "If someone asks about the location of the dragon prison well, you must not answer truthfully." Shiluli reminded again, in case someone comes here to confirm with the dragon. "Of course." Luoyang thought to himself that I had planned to conceal the news of the dragon prison well a long time ago, otherwise why would I tell him so many secrets of the dragon clan in the East Empire realm? Of course, I will not let the people of Penglai touch it again. Next, it's crossing the tribulation. Shiluli pondered and said, "Crossing the tribulation is just a cover, but it's better to do it in front of the sect. The place for crossing the tribulation is far away in the East China Sea. You pretend to cross the tribulation there, and I will go to the sect to get the materials needed for crossing the tribulation, leaving some traces for the sect monks to notice." "Okay." Luoyang nodded. The two agreed on the crossing the tribulation location and then started to act separately. Shiluli returned to Penglai, while Luoyang went to the edge of the East China Sea, where he used to practice the acquired 5 elements of the great extinction of the divine light, and sat cross-legged on the island. With his formation of the nascent soul, the title of the master of the Tiangong workshop was truly stabilized, and no one could shake it anymore. A master of casting at the nascent soul level, although only specializing in formations and casting tripods, who dares to underestimate it? Not to mention anything else, the lifespan of a nascent soul cultivator alone is enough for him to slowly complete the remaining casting methods in other fields. Elder Shiding also started to enter the Tao from casting tripods, and later became a master of casting in all fields, didn't he? Therefore, as long as the news of his becoming a Yuning spread, it would immediately cause a sensation in Penglai King Temple, and then everyone would scramble to curry favor with him, hoping to make a name for themselves in front of the future master of casting. For specific reference, refer to the treatment of Long Long, the elder of the Dragon Clan, Ling Yunpo, the Chin Sword master of Shushan, and Qiu Cheng Tian, the successor of Kunlun sect. It is true that I have opened several small accounts, each of which has made achievements in their respective fields, and even been sought after by others. I'm afraid that few people in the world can do what I do. Of course, Luoyang's goal is not to be sought after, but to use this fact of being sought after to improve his status in Penglai King Temple. Then, he tried to get close to Elder Wang Xiang and wait for an opportunity to seize the fragments of the Butian stone. Unlike Elder Kisun, who hid the fragments in the chest basket, the Wang Xiang Immortal hid the fragments of the Butian stone in a certain space, so that the Kunlun mirror could not locate the specific location at all. The only thing that can be confirmed is that when the Wang Xiang Immortal was out, the position of the fragment of the heaven repairing stone had not been moved most of the time. In other words, it should not be in the storage bag. If the Wang Xiang Immortal carried it with him and never left, then Luoyang really had no way. First, Eastern Standard Time establish a good relationship with the Wang Xiang Immortal, and then slowly investigate. By the way, if I became a nascent soul so quickly, would it coincide with the time when Qiu Cheng Tian formed a nascent soul, causing suspicion? Luoyang quickly counted with his fingers and found that his current time point was about 2 months earlier than the time when Qiu Cheng Tian formed a nascent soul. Now the Orthodox Church and the Demonic Church are still fighting each other near Tipchen Mountain and Qilan Mountains. In this way, there is no problem. Luoyang continued to stand in the air and rest his eyes. After a few days, he suddenly seemed to realize something. He opened his eyes and saw Shiluli flying a sword from a distance, followed by the Xuandu sect master and the Wang Xiang Immortal. Luoyang. We agreed to just go back and set up a maze. Why did you bring the headmaster and the Immortal here? Fortunately, Luoyang was also quick-witted, and he quickly said to Kunlun Mirror, "A jinn, disguise me as being seriously injured and not yet recovered." Kunlun Mirror carried out the order silently. Shiluli, on the other hand, showed an anxious look on his face, and came over to support Luoyang. The headmaster of Xuandu also quickly approached, quickly checked Luoyang's physical condition, and then nodded to the Wang Xiang Immortal. The Wongsang Immortal turned his head and looked around, wondering why there was no breath of the heavenly tribulation left, but when he saw the headmaster of Chuandun did, he knew that Master Jimdun had become an infant, and he didn't think much about it. After all, there are thousands of types of heavenly tribulations, and it is not impossible for a heavenly tribulation to have no breath left. Seeing that Luo Yan didn't look very good, he probably hurt his essence when he was going through the tribulation, so he took out a pill and handed it to him, saying, "Put it under your tongue, don't swallow it, and go back and meditate for 3 days." Luo Yan nodded weakly, ate the pill, and let Shiluli help him back to Penglai. After returning to Penglai, Luo Yan immediately shut himself in and announced to the public that he had hurt his essence during the tribulation and needed to rest. Third senior sister Liang Guo and junior sister Shiking hurried over to visit him. Knowing that Luo Yan had successfully passed the nascent soul tribulation, they were both happy and worried. They were happy that Tiangong Workshop finally had a nascent soul cultivator, but they were worried about Luo Yan's condition. If he was seriously injured and had to go into seclusion for a long time, what would happen to Tiangong Workshop in the future? Thinking about it carefully, it seems that Shiluli usually handles the affairs of the workshop. Okay, Luo Yan's seclusion is just seclusion, it won't affect the normal operation of Tiangong Workshop. Not long after, senior brother Ling Yushu also arrived. Ling Yushu was overjoyed to learn that his former junior brother Luo Yan had formed a nascent soul. You know, since the death of his master, Elder Shi Din, Ling Yushu has been quite self-blaming, always feeling guilty that Tiangong Fan was in danger, but he pulled out early, although in terms of chronological order, he was the first to leave and set up his own business, and Elder Shi Din also supported it at the time, but this did not prevent him from feeling guilty and ashamed about it. Now that Luo Yan has finally formed a nascent soul, Tiangong Fan has no worries, and he can finally breathe a sigh of relief from his guilt. Soon, the news spread in Yu King Temple. Knowing that Master Jimdun had already formed a nascent soul, everyone was extremely shocked. How long has he been in the Golden Core Realm? It seems that it was after the death of Elder Shi Din. How could he have formed a nascent soul so quickly? Fortunately, the backup plan arranged by Shiluli took effect, and soon an insider who knew the inside story told everyone. It was the Wongsang Immortal who gave the elixir. Since it was the work of the Wongsang Immortal, everyone immediately dispelled all doubts and stopped discussing it. There were a few short-sighted people who privately grumbled about why the Immortal favored Jinun, but when they thought that Jimdun had retrieved the Shenending for the temple, they did not dare to slander him openly, but only whispered jealously behind his back. Chapter 887. Competing with Kyo Chang's time for reputation. A few months later. Elder Jimdun. Elder Jimdun looks good today. I found a rare item outside a few days ago. Please identify it. Ah, it turns out to be a precious material for casting. I can't use it here, so why don't you use it? Well, it's nothing. It's just that things have value only when they are put to good use. After seeing off another enthusiastic Penglai elder, Luo Yan turned around with a smile and asked Shiluli to keep the gift from the other party. Which one is this? The 67th elder. Shiluli replied, now even a blind man can see that our Tiangong Fan has risen again. Not yet. Luo Yan said proudly, I have only reached the nascent soul stage. I still have a long way to go to become a master like Master who is proficient in all types of castings. It doesn't matter. Shiluli said calmly, it is easy to master all schools of thought, but it is difficult to advance to the nascent soul stage. After all, the nascent soul tribulation is not something to be trifled with. Now that my husband has entered the nascent soul stage, the next step is to practice hard for 100 or 1,000 years, and there is basically no danger of death. The reason why so many elders came to visit you is because they saw this point and wanted to make an advance investment to get the stove hot. I see. Of course Luo Yan could not understand this, but since it was the smart and insightful Lady Lily who was teaching him, he pretended to be enlightened and nodded in agreement. By the way. Shiluli took out a stack of documents, take it. What is this? Luo Yan asked curiously. Shiluli looked at him speechlessly. My husband has recently been promoted to the Penglai Elder. Next, you'll have to teach the outer disciples regularly. Have you forgotten? Luo Yan. I really forgot. Looking back, when I was still an outer disciple, it was because Shiluli caught me in the class of Elder Shiding and asked me all kinds of questions that I finally got the opportunity to join Tiangong Fang. Of course, lucky people like Luo Yan are a minority among the minority. Most elders' teaching is simply to complete the task, and they will not pay much attention to these outer disciples who try to show themselves. Unless they meet a disciple with particularly good talent, this situation is not common. Because disciples with particularly good talents often do not choose to join Penglai. Even if they join Penglai, the family and elders behind them have made advance arrangements and directly arranged a designated master. Therefore, most of these disciples who were assigned to the outer sect are mediocre people who have no power and influence behind them, and most of them have no talent for cultivation. Luoyang certainly does not want to waste time, but unfortunately this is a task assigned by the sect, and he can only do it as a routine. Fortunately, his wife was very considerate and prepared a complete lesson plan for him, most of which were some text materials that were sorted out when she was teaching her junior sister Shiking. After Shilili's summary and text processing, it has become a simple and mobile lesson plan, and Luoyang only needs to read it verbatim. When he came to the classroom, Luoyang glanced at the outer disciples indifferently, and then began to teach indifferently. Slightly beyond his expectations, these outer disciples were unusually well behaved, and there were no troublemakers who overestimated their own abilities and jumped out to recommend themselves. After the class, Luoyang picked up the lesson plan and turned away without hesitation. In the corridor outside, he met Elder Buxu who took over the class. Senior Buxu. Luoyang saluted respectfully. Jinnoon. Elder Buxu wanted to build a good relationship with him, so he stopped and chatted with him. How do you feel about your first class? It's just a routine matter. Luoyang shook his head. There are no good seedlings among these disciples. That's natural. Elder Buxu stroked his beard and said, if there are any good seedlings, they usually won't come from the outer disciples. But this year, the number of outstanding talents entering my Penglai is indeed much less than in the past. Oh? Luoyang asked in surprise, why is that? I heard that Chan Zhengzhenren of Kunlun Tai King sect actually formed a baby recently. Elder Buxu said slowly, in addition, this year is the opening year of Kunlun. How many families and sects are staring at his disciples, wishing to stud their outstanding children there? Naturally, fewer people come to our Penglai. So that's how it is. Luoyang sighed and said, it's a blessing that such a great man has emerged among the righteous peers. But Chan Zhen is too aggressive. In the long run, it may not be a blessing. This remark hit the delicate thoughts of Elder Buxu. Penglai has always regarded Kunlun as its big brother. On the surface, it is respectful and obedient, and follows its lead. In secret, it can't help but criticize its big brother's tyranny behind his back. This kind of free and sarcastic remarks is exactly what the Penglai elders like to hear the most. That's right. Elder Buxu agreed. The demon cult besieged Kunlun before, and the Gyeongthong region even changed hands for a time. It can be seen that Kunlun Tai King sect is no longer as powerful as it used to be. Master Ziwei is also a great man of his generation. He can't stand the demon cult's way, who can forcibly unite the six paths into one, advancing and retreating together. The fact that Chen Gengzhenren has conceived a baby is certainly good news, but I'm afraid that after Demon Wei knows about it, he will definitely have a targeted backup plan. Although it was said in a tone of I'm really worried about Kunlun, there was a subtle irony of do you think you're so powerful? Luoyang quickly understood it and cooperated with Elder Buxu to backmount Kunlun, and soon they became closer. After the chat, Elder Buxu ended to teach. Luoyang was about to return to Tiangong workshop, but suddenly he was called to the back hall by a disciple sent by Master Chuandu to attend a high-level meeting. In the back hall, several high-level elders had gathered together and were discussing with the Chuandu sect master about the recent sudden change. It was nothing else but the matter of Kunlun Changgen's infant formation. Luoyang listened for a while and realized that because the next successor to Kunlun's sect master was confirmed, the number of elite disciples from all parties who came to Penglai had dropped by almost 50%. For example, Ji1, the eloquent Ji family, had originally sounded out the Chuandu sect master, hinting that she was going to be accepted into Penglai, but now he directly regretted it, saying that Ji1 admired Elder Changgen very much, so she probably had no chance to be with Penglai. What do you mean by no chance? It was obvious that they saw that Kunlun was full of stamina, so they rushed over to curry favor with him. Penglai and Kunlun are old allies, and their relationship is as strong as that of the Black Turtle and Flood Dragon tribes in the Eastern Empire realm. Therefore, everyone could not criticize Kunlun for anything, and could only discuss how to deal with the problem of the sharp decline in disciples next. Luoyang was silent at the side. It was not that he had no idea, but because this idea was really, he refused to speak, but the head of Chuandu helped him speak, saying, "It is true that Kunlun has Taoist geniuses. Don't we also have a second-grade golden elixir, and now it has formed a fetus at a very fast speed? Immortal, why don't you use Elder Jinoon as a benchmark and promote our Penglai to the 4 directions? Luoyang almost vomited blood when he heard this. It's not enough to have Lin Yunpo, and now you want Luoyang to compete with Qiu Chang Tian. Chapter 888. I am a man who wants to save the world. Me? Hearing that the sect wanted to promote him, Luoyang quickly pushed it away and said, I can't do it. My 2nd grade golden elixir was not as good as Chan Zheng's Hinran's, and now I have only formed a divine infant, which is even worse than the opponent's 1st grade immortal infant. If I publicize it with great fanfare, I am afraid I will only bring shame upon myself. The elders of Penglai. No, it's a divine infant after all, how can it be regarded as self-humiliation? The nascent soul realm is divided into 5 levels: Ghost, Human, Earth, God, and Immortal. Among them, Ghost infants and Human infants are defective products that cannot ascend to immortality, so let's not talk about them for now. Most of the nascent soul cultivators in the world have formed an infant at the Earth infant level. If they can go one step further and reach the divine infant level, then as long as there is no accident in the future ascension to immortality, they will basically be golden immortals, and sprint to the Dailyo golden immortal. Therefore, in the past 10,000 years of the 3 pure ones of the Orthodox Church, the number of cultivators who can form divine infants can be counted on one hand, so how can it be self-humiliated? If it were Shushan, with Chan Zheng's 1st grade immortal infant in front, a mere 2nd grade divine infant would not be worth showing off. But Penglai was not so arrogant. If the 1st grade immortal infant cannot be surpassed, so what? If we can't get 1st place, we can get 2nd or 3rd place, which is also good. Everyone surrounded Luoyang and persuaded him, but Luoyang turned a deaf ear and refused. What a joke. A Chin Sword Master suddenly appeared and almost smashed Qiu Chang Tian's invincible golden body. If there were another divine infant Jinoon, and 3 trumpets were fighting each other, wouldn't he be exhausted to death? Seeing that his persuasion was ineffective, the head of Khuandu hurriedly exchanged glances with the Wangxiang Immortal. The Wangxiang Immortal also sighed. If the spirit of Shushan is to be competitive and win, then Penglai is completely the opposite. Everyone is intoxicated in their own academic world, and they don't care about the strength of the battle or the ranking. Simply put, they don't have a sense of honor for the sect. In this environment, it is normal for Luoyang not to over-promote himself for the sect. So after the meeting, Wangxiang Immortal called Luoyang over alone and said, since you were already an elder of Penglai, there are some things in the sect that you need to know. Luoyang followed Wangxiang Immortal to a secret room deep in Yuqing Temple. The secret room was decorated as a study room, with only a bookshelf, a cabinet, and a desk. Take it. Wangxiang Immortal took out a jade slip from the bookshelf and handed it to Luoyang, saying, you can only read it here, you can't take it out. Yes. Luoyang immersed his consciousness in the jade slip and read it attentively. The knowledge recorded in the jade slip is very interesting. It talks about a worldview of a round sky and a square earth. The earth is square, the front is the cultivation world, and the back is the Eastern Empire world. The sky is a spherical shield that completely wraps the earth. From the outside, it looks like a ball, so it is also called the celestial sphere. The function of the celestial sphere is very simple, which is to protect the world inside the sphere from various invasions from the outer world. The outer world is generally believed to be a chaotic world filled with the water of the boundless celestial river, with many stars floating in it, dotted in between, and demons from outer space swimming around like fish in the water. Of course, there are countless other celestial worlds, just like bubbles in the water, flowing randomly. As early as in ancient times, the sky barrier had broken once, causing a large amount of water from the celestial river to pour in, causing China to tilt eastward. There were also countless demons coming through the gap, preying on people like pigs and dogs. It was not until Niwei refined the sky repairing stone and repaired the sky barrier that the celestial world we were in did not break and disappear like bubbles. The following are the notes added by the Wangxiang Immortal. Now it seems that repairing the sky is only a stopgap measure. The material of the 5-colored stone is not as good as the original sky barrier, and it will be worn through by the water of the Milky Way sooner or later, which may take hundreds of years or even thousands of years. The predecessors in the fairy world have sent a warning, saying that people have a lifespan, and so does the world. The lifespan of this world has been exhausted, and repairing the sky is tantamount to forcibly prolonging life, which will not be a cure. If the mortals in this world want to escape, they can only cultivate to the realm of immortality before the sky breaks, and then use the power of ascension to go to the fairyland closest to this world to escape this disaster. When I ascended to immortality in the past, I chose to stay in this world and never ascended because I thought that there was no immortal on duty in my sect. Fortunately, Nue in the past refined 6 pieces of sky repairing stones, used 5 to repair the sky, and kept 1 as a spare. She told future generations that if the sky cracked again, they could use the spare sky repairing stone to repair it, which could delay that catastrophe of destruction by at least another 100,000 years. Unfortunately, the spare sky repairing stone later experienced changes and eventually split, and its whereabouts are unknown. I have searched for so many years, but only found a fragment. If you want to repair the scar in the sky, you must have a complete sky repairing stone. But if you just want to save the Penglai Fairy Island and create a small protective sky dome, this fragment should be more than enough. The method of turning the sky repairing stone into a sky dome was also recorded by Nue in the past and passed down. There is nothing else. Luoyang pretended to be horrified and shattered, and asked the Wonxiang Immortal, "Immortal, what is said here, is it true?" It would be better if it was false. Wonxiang Immortal sighed. To build a small protective sky dome, in addition to the fragments of the sky repairing stone, we also need various natural treasures, countless. My Penglai has accumulated only 30% of the planned amount so far, so, Elder Jimnoon, now you know why we need to publicize it. Only if my Penglai's reputation in the East China Sea remains, will the many immortal cultivation families, sects, and forces in Chinzhou be willing to continue trading with us, and we can get more natural treasures, build that small protective sky dome, and protect the sect's Taoist lineage. At this point, Wonxiang Immortal paused for a moment and sighed. However, with your talent for cultivation, it is estimated that you will be able to ascend to immortality and escape from this world before the great disaster of world destruction comes. Well, there is no need to force you. How can the immortal say that? Luoyang immediately became furious, as if his loyalty was doubted, and he said indignantly, "I have transformed from a mortal to a unique cultivator, which can be said to be a rebirth, and it is not an exaggeration. Penglai is the family that gave birth to me and raised me. Now that my family is in trouble, how can I sit back and watch? If the immortal does not abandon me, I am willing to take this responsibility for the immortal." Good child, good child. The Wonxiang Immortal was also moved by his sincerity, and said excitedly, "You have your own path, and the sect will not force you. But if you have time, you can study the method of recasting the sky left by Nue. Junior will study it with all my heart." Luoyang took the bamboo slips handed over by the Wonxiang Immortal, and his heart was also very excited. "Don't worry, Wonxiang Immortal. I will not only preserve the Penglai Taoist tradition, but also save this world. You just wait and see." Chapter 889. Luoyang, you must shoulder the Taoist tradition of Penglai. The Sky Dome, or the Celestial Sphere Barrier, is the most complicated thing Luoyang has ever seen. The bamboo slips given by the Wonxiang Immortal recorded the Sky Dome repair method, which is essentially Nue's analysis and understanding of the Celestial Sphere Barrier. According to the records in the bamboo slips, this Sky Dome seems to be a derivative of some kind of Tao, so it is absolutely impossible to use the Sky Repairing Stone to simulate the Celestial Sphere Barrier. It would be good if it can reach 1%. But even if it is 1%, its complexity has exceeded other formations that Luoyang has seen. The large formation in the former Gaiqiu Palace seems to be very similar to the records in the bamboo slips, both of which are the type of multi-dimensional compression. Luoyang read it carefully for a while and knew why the Wonxiang Immortal gave him the bamboo slips. Because the comprehension requirements for studying this method are too high, only I, who have the characteristics of hearing 1,000 understandings, am the best candidate to help the Wonxiang Immortal create a small sky dome shield for Penglai. Of course, the Wonxiang Immortal's idea is too stingy. How can I show my strength by just protecting a Penglai Fairy Island? Why don't I take this piece of the stone and collect other pieces of the stone, and finally piece them together into a complete stone, and then mend the sky? Isn't it beautiful? Luoyang made up his mind, but he didn't plan to tell the Wonxiang Immortal, but planned to give him a surprise in the future. The reason is also very simple. If you say you are going to mend the sky, will people believe it? The stone is divided into 6 parts, and the orthodox side only took half, and Luoyang currently knows only 5 of them, and 1 is still missing. In other words, even if Luoyang can be eloquent and persuade everyone to cooperate sincerely, he still can't mend the Sky League. Why would the Immortal believe that you are mending the sky, instead of plotting for the stone fragments in everyone's hands for other reasons? What's more tricky is that Luoyang can't persuade everyone to cooperate sincerely, because he can't explain how he knows the origins of other stone fragments. How do you know that the Kisun Immortal also has a piece of stone fragment? Oh, you are the elder Changzhen in Kunlun sect, and you were trusted by Kisun Immortal. I just know that Kunlun also has a fragment. What, you are Qiu Chain Tian? It can only be said that since he ambushed into the major sects, he has no chance to confess and be lenient. Luo Yan silently read the bamboo slips, rolled it up solemnly, and returned it to Wang Xiang Immortal and said, Junior will study it carefully when he goes back. By the way, what kind of strange thing is the fragment of the sky repairing stone? I dare to ask you to see it. Of course it's okay. Wang Xiang Immortal said with a smile, if the sky dome that protects the sect is compared to an array, then the fragment of the sky repairing stone is the instrument to suppress the array. How can you ask someone to study the array but not show them the instrument to suppress the array? He spread his robe sleeves and opened a hole in the secret room, and then took Luo Yan to it. I see. Kunlun Jin thought for a while, there is such a small cave, the design is really exquisite and interesting. What do you mean? Luo Yan asked hurriedly. You know the unique skill of magic power in the sleeve, right? Kunlun Jin said slowly, to practice magic power in the sleeve, you need to start with the cave of transportation. You have to be able to send and receive spatial fluctuations freely with your hands and feet, then you can be considered to have barely entered the door. Therefore, you need a small cave of transportation to practice the method of transportation. If you have not practiced the magic power in the sleeve, you will never be able to open this cave from the outside world. No wonder the Wang Xiang Immortal left everything here. Luo Yan followed the Wang Xiang Immortal through the cave entrance and saw that it seemed to be the inside of a tent. There were curtains made of cloth on all sides, and many things were placed messily on the ground, including flying swords, magic weapons, elixirs, and various materials. Luo Yan turned a blind eye to these and just watched the Wang Xiang Immortal rummaging through the garbage. A Jin, scan his digging techniques for me. No need. Kunlun Jin said, there are no traps in this garbage dump. He is just looking for something, just like an old man in the countryside looking through the garbage dump. Let's scan and record it. Luo Yan firmly believed that Wang Xiang Immortal would not be defenseless. There must be a trap here. Here. Wang Xiang Immortal finally took out a small wooden box, handed it to Luo Yan and said, this is the fragment of the Butian stone. Luo Yan took the wooden box calmly, opened it, and saw a piece of Butian stone inside. The size was about the same as the pendant on the dragon fox's neck, but it was sharper and narrower. In an instant, Luo Yan had the urge to ask a Jin to teleport away with him immediately, but in the end reason prevailed. He had robbed Penglai and alarmed other orthodox sects, so he didn't want Kunlun Shushan's Butian stone fragment. He calmly returned the wooden box to the Wang Xiang Immortal and asked in confusion, is this really not an ordinary stone fragment? Of course not. Wang Xiang Immortal said with a smile, in the unactivated state, you use your spiritual sense to scan it directly, and it is indeed no different from ordinary stones. He stretched out 2 fingers, pinched the fragment of the Butian stone, and drew a circle in the air. Luo Yan immediately noticed that the space inside the circle seemed to have undergone some changes, as if it was isolated from the outside world. The Great Way is simple, that's what it means. Wang Xiang Immortal put the Butian stone back into the box and said, it is a condensation of some kind of Tao, with a restrained divine light and no flamboyance. Such a strange object can't even completely repair the sky, it's really a pity. Luo Yan sighed. Everything has its own lifespan, just as the sun rises and sets. Wang Xiang Immortal stroked his beard and smiled, how can there be something that is immortal? This is true for cultivators, and it is also true for the world. As long as I can preserve the Taoist tradition of Penglai King Temple as much as possible while I am still in this world, I will be satisfied. I will definitely live up to the trust of the immortal. Luo Yan said solemnly. Wang Xiang Immortal put the wooden box containing the sky repairing stone on the shelf next to him, and then took Luo Yan away from this cave. Although I can't take the method of casting the sky that I taught you before, you have the ability to understand 1,000 things after hearing one thing, so I think you have remembered it all. Wang Xiang Immortal instructed, in addition to the time for daily lessons, you should comprehend the principles more often, which will also be of great benefit to your understanding of that Tao. Junior remembers it. Luo Yan said respectfully. After leaving the secret room where the Wang Xiang Immortal was, Luo Yan hurriedly asked Kunlun Mirror, have you located the spatial coordinates? No, Kunlun Mirror replied, that cave is a folded space, which cannot be entered by teleportation, but must be opened by the magic of the sleeve. What is a folded space? Folded spaces, forget it, Luo Yan said impatiently, So if I want to seize the fragment of Penglai's heaven-repairing stone, I have to learn the magic of the sleeve. Chapter 890. This boy also has the talent to be a leader. For example, an ordinary space is like a built house. You can enter through the main door, or through the window through my teleportation, or even use the Tianu divine shuttle to break through the wall. But this miniature cave is collapsed under normal circumstances. Collapse, understand? It's like a tent that hasn't been erected yet. It's limp. How can you get in? Enter through the door, enter through the window, or break through the wall? It can't get in now. You have to erect the tent again before you can get in. I understand the truth. Luoyang said impatiently, so where can I learn the magic power in my sleeve? Don't tell me to go to the Wonxiang Immortal to learn. What's the difference between this and asking the owner to give me the key? I know you're in a hurry, but, Kumlinjin paused, take your time. Anyway, we've been waiting for hundreds of years, so it's not a big deal to learn a magic power. Forget it. Luoyang thought to himself that since Arjin is not in a hurry, why should I be in a hurry? Arjin, let's reload the game and go to Shushan first. He ordered. Point 2. Shushan Shang King Sect, King Luo Peak. Character Identity. Ling Yunpo. Mirror Flower Water Moon Template overwritten, currently traveling through time and space. Ling Yunpo opened his eyes. Today was another day as the Qin Sword Master. Unlike Qiu Changtai and Luoyang, Ling Yunpo himself could not quickly advance to the nascent soul stage, otherwise he would have to be brought out by Shushan to compete with Kunling Qiu Changtai. The fight between the second and the eldest is always so dangerous, so it is better to avoid it if possible. By the way, where is the fragment of the heaven-filling stone of the Long Eyebrow Immortal hidden? The heaven-filling stone of the Kisun Immortal is hidden in the chess basket where he puts chess pieces. The heaven-filling stone of the Wonxiang Immortal is hidden in the cave where he practices the magical power in his sleeve. The common point between the two is that on the one hand, they are both located in a space controlled by the Immortal, and on the other hand, it is where the Immortal lives. In other words, the heaven-filling stone fragment on the Shushan side should also be in a space where the Long Eyebrow Immortal usually stays and is isolated from the outside world. Where does the Long Eyebrow Immortal usually stay? Ever since the last incident at the Demon Locking Tower, when a large number of dragons escaped, this immortal has been guarding the bottom floor of the Demon Locking Tower to prevent the Demon Locking Tower from changing again. In other words, the fragments of the Heaven Repairing Stone are most likely also at the bottom floor of the Demon Locking Tower. Ling Yunpo was thinking this when he suddenly saw Nzisu coming to visit him. Junior brother. She seemed to be hesitant to speak, and after a long while she said, Junior brother, the situation that day was actually like this. Ling Yunpo listened to senior sister Am's stuttering explanation for a long time, saying that the reason why the long-eyebrow immortal sent her there was not to imprison her, but to make a bet with her to see if junior brother Ling would come to save her. In the final analysis, it was because he had a prejudice against the Wen King flow and wanted to separate the two. After listening to senior sister Am's explanation, Ling Yunpo instantly understood everything. Being a peacemaker was not something that senior sister could think of on her own, and it must have been instructed by the Shushan sect master's chief master Su Jian. After all, the long-eyebrow immortal was a Shushan immortal, but he had a bad relationship with the Qin Sword master of Shushan. One of them is Su Jian's master, and the other is Su Jian's disciple. He has a lot of flesh and blood. Of course, he can't just sit there and watch. Sooner or later, he will come to dissolve the hatred. So Ling Yunpo pretended to comfort Nzisu and said, Senior sister, you don't need to say more. I understand everything. You formed a second-grade golden elixir at the beginning. How could the immortal give up his martial arts and really want to kill you? In fact, I don't have much hatred for the immortal Chang Mei. I just saw you tied to the dragon trapping pillar and was furious. Now that you are safe and sound and have nothing to worry about, I will definitely not hold on to this matter. It is true that you will not really kill Nzisu. But did the immortal Changmei want to kill me at the time? He must have. The old thief Changmei will snatch your pieces of the sky-making stone sooner or later, making you regret it at the bottom of the Demon Locking Tower and regret it for the rest of your life. Hearing Ling Yunpo's statement, Nzisu was relieved. She was also worried that Ling Yunpo still hated the long-browed immortal, and that Master Su Jian would be caught in the middle. Now that junior brother was so understanding, well, I knew junior brother was not a petty person. Master could just say it directly. Why did he ask me to pass on the message? After leaving Ling Yunpo's room, Nzisu saw Su Jian pacing in the hall as soon as she walked out. Sua, what did you say? Seeing Nzisu coming out, Su Jian hurriedly asked in a deep voice. Junior brother said that he was just angry because he saw me tied up. Zisu replied softly, now everything is over. That's good. Su Jian nodded with relief, thinking that this is my good disciple. On second thought, this good disciple almost took his good daughter, and Su Jian couldn't help but twitch his face, and his original good impression was gone. Next time something like this happens, Master can just go and explain it to Junior brother. Zisu continued, Junior brother is not an unreasonable person. Of course he is not an unreasonable person, I am, okay? Su Jian couldn't help sighing in his heart. Usually his daughter is well behaved and sensible, but as long as it involves Ling Yunpo, she will turn against him if he shows even the slightest disagreement or disapproval. As a result, Su Jian's feelings towards Ling Yunpo are very contradictory. On the one hand, he thinks this disciple is really good, whether it is his character, talent, strength, or loyalty to the master, he is impeccable. On the other hand, he feels that he has taken his daughter away from him, and he has a kind of ugly jealous feeling that is unique to old fathers. Go and talk to him again, the long-browed immortal wants to see him tomorrow. Su Jian explained to Zisu again. What do you want to see Junior brother for? Zisu immediately became alert. He is the Qin sword master, what can the immortal do to him? Su Jian explained with a smile, thinking that during the time he was in seclusion, his master was too old and confused. Kim Feng is destined to be the next Shushan sect master. Now he is still in the Golden Core realm. The immortal will naturally give him many benefits, asking him to quickly cultivate to the Golden Core realm, and then pass the tribulation and form a baby. When he heard that it was a benefit for his junior brother, Zisu's expression eased, and he asked softly, Master, don't you want to be the Shushan sect master? Why are you in a hurry to hand over the position to your junior brother? Master, I'm not interested in this. Su Jian was a little embarrassed and didn't want to explain this matter. He was so talented in swordsmanship, and he was so stupid and confused in management that the people below knew not to ask him, and went to the former sect master Yuzheng Elder if there was anything. Yuzheng was also helpless. Everyone knew that the next Shushan sect master must be the Qin sword master, and the handover of power in Shushan was almost unshakable. Now he is helping Su Jian to handle government affairs, so he has neither the title of headmaster nor the power of headmaster. He is just working for nothing. How can this be? So Yujing went to complain to the immortal Changmei again. The immortal was also troubled when he heard it. After discussing with Su Jian for a long time, he could only let him continue to serve as the headmaster of Shushan for a period of time, and then let the Qin sword master quickly form an infant and take over his position. In the past, King Luo Peak was excluded by Shushan, and Zisu was also feared and hostile by his fellow disciples. As a result, after the entry of King Feng's Hinran, he resolved all the malice from the outside world, and made connections for his own use, and turned around the disadvantages of King Luo Peak bit by bit. Everyone saw this. Even if we don't mention the Qin's human sword, this boy has the talent to be the headmaster. Chapter 891 What a good child. The immortal with long eyebrows wants to see me? Ling Yunpo asked in surprise. What does the old man want to see me for? He doesn't want to assassinate me and take away my Qin's human sword, does he? Ahem, impossible. First of all, the Qin's human sword will recognize its master, and it is impossible for it to follow whoever is stronger. Secondly, even if the immortal goes crazy again, Su Jian will definitely stop him. Junior brother. Zisu said with a smile, don't worry, it's a good thing. Good things? What good things can there be? It can't be that the immortal is giving me a crown and forcibly raising my cultivation, shit. Ling Yunpo was shocked. Although he is now using a Jin's illusion to pretend that he is still a Jintan's Hinran, if the immortal gives me a crown directly, wouldn't he reveal his flaws? Not to mention a direct crown, even if the immortal said, I have a relic with great benefits that can make you directly reach the great perfection of the Jindan realm, how should I respond? If I agree, my cultivation will not be able to continue to stagnate. If I don't agree, then why don't I agree? It's unreasonable to refuse the opportunity when there's a chance. Agree, then go to the ruins and say that you're unlucky and get nothing. This excuse has been used once before in Yunming's country. Ling Yunpo followed Zisu to the demon locking tower on a flying sword, thinking over and over again in his heart, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Others' cultivation progress is too slow, and they have to pretend to be very powerful, for fear that their master will look down on them. But my cultivation progress is too fast, so I have to hide my realm, hoping that the elders of the sect will ignore me. What kind of thing is this? When they arrived at the bottom of the demon locking tower, the headmaster Su Jian had already been waiting there. Seeing that Ling Yunpo was brought by his daughter, he forced a smile and said, "Sue is waiting outside, I'll take King Feng in." Ling Yunpo followed him into the tower, only to see that this place was different from the upper floor of the demon locking tower. The upper floor was an octagonal room, with an arch on each floor, leading to the corresponding demon prison cave. This place was a long corridor, and passing through it, it suddenly became clear. I saw a huge space around me. The dome above my head was about 30 feet high. There were a lot of classical Shinto paintings on it, with thick ink and heavy colors. There were also countless huge long swords, piercing into the ground from top to bottom, serving as the pillars of the inner room. The swords were not smooth, but were messily pierced with many corpses with small swords. I saw that the corpses and bones were also strange, with feathered tribes spreading their wings, scaled tribes coiling their tails, coon tribes shrinking, hairy tribes lying on their stomachs, and horned tribes crawling. There were all kinds of demon corpses in various postures, and the only thing they had in common was that they were all nailed to the sword body of the giant sword. At the end of the inner room in that distance, there was a high platform made of white jade. The long-browed immortal was wearing a wide robe with long sleeves, sitting in the center of the high platform, with the hem of his clothes covering the surrounding ground, and he was closing his eyes to rest. The immortal has been in seclusion here for a long time and is not aware of the affairs of the sect. Su Jian said to Ling Yunpo in secret, "I was attacked outside before, and I closed my eyes too hastily," so the immortal was angry with Su, but he never ordered to treat you harshly. Indeed, Ling Yunpo thought to himself. Let alone the emperor, even if the big leader wants to make things difficult for someone, why does he need to give orders in person? He only needs to say something, and naturally there will be lackeys to do the job. Am I stupid enough to think that the lackeys acted on their own? Master, what you said is absolutely right. Ling Yunpo showed a resolute look and said seriously, the immortal was deceived by the traitors around him, which caused senior sister to suffer. I just hate that I can't kill the traitors and avenge senior sister. Well, this, Su Jian showed an embarrassed look and said, it was Elder Mingwu who slandered the immortal. You chopped him down with a sword on the golden summit of Shushan that day. Oh. Ling Yunpo nodded seriously and clenched his fists and said, it's hateful. If I had known that he was the one who slandered, I shouldn't have let him die so easily. The long-browed immortal in the distance, although far away from here, but the immortal's hearing is not ordinary, naturally heard Su Jian's words of exoneration and Ling Yunpo's answer. As for Elder Mingwu, the long-browed immortal now knows the truth, and naturally hates him to the extreme. But it was indeed himself who believed in the slander and wanted to bed with Zisu. So there were some things he really didn't have the face to say, and he could only let Su Jian convey them on his behalf and make concessions. Fortunately, Master King Hin was very sensible, and the long-browed immortal finally put down his worries. Why didn't I see before that this child was so smart and sensible? It seems that this questioning flow is not without merit. At least those who practice questioning flow must be considerate enough. Just as the long-browed immortal was thinking with guilt and regret, he saw Su Jian had brought Ling Yunpo to the stone platform, bowed and said, Immortal. Yes. The long-browed immortal was ready and planned to apologize to Ling Yunpo patiently first. But when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them. He was a great golden immortal. Since he took charge of the Shushan sect, who didn't worship him as the ancestor? Now he had to apologize to a junior in a humble manner as an elder, and he really couldn't say it. But the long-browed immortal claimed that he was not the kind of person who could not distinguish right from wrong. If he did something wrong, it was wrong. What's the use of being an elder? He almost forced the Chainsaw Master to leave Shushan. Can such a thing be covered up lightly? Two contradictory thoughts kept clashing in his mind. The long-browed immortal's beard moved slightly, and his lips stammered. After a long time, he finally uttered a sentence. Kim Fen, well, have you encountered any bottlenecks in your cultivation recently? Su Jian's eyes widened beside him. Master, we didn't say that before. Didn't I tell you last time that resigning from the position of the sect guarding immortal is your explanation to the sect, and Ling Yunpo, as a victim, you still have to give him an explanation separately. Even if the emperor of the mortal world did something wrong, he would have to issue a self-criticism edict. How can you be so stubborn and not admit your mistakes? Reply to the immortal. Ling Yunpo was also secretly alert, and said carefully, I haven't encountered any bottlenecks, and my practice is going smoothly. Yeah. The immortal Chanmei struggled internally, but said, you haven't entered the Golden Core Realm yet, and your speed is really slow. As soon as he said this, Su Jian's eyelids twitched, and he realized that he had said something wrong. It was obviously to admit his mistakes to resolve the hatred, but why did it become a fault? Fortunately, Ling Yunpo's expression did not change, and the immortal Chanmei quickly turned the topic back and said, I have a pill here, called the God of Fortune pill. Take it back and take it, and pass the Golden Core realm as soon as possible. Ling Yunpo was stunned when he heard this, and Su Jian next to him was also shocked. The so-called God of Fortune pill, as the name suggests, has the magic of good fortune, and is specially used to break through the last small realm in a large realm. For example, the Wafu stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, the Yue stage of the Golden Core realm, and the Yuting stage of the Nascent Soul realm. As long as they take a fortune pill, they can immediately ignore the bottleneck and reach the great perfection directly, and they can be promoted as long as they pass the tribulation. However, the refining method of this pill is extremely complicated, and it has been lost in ancient times. Now, one pill is one less. Of course, it should be used on the most precious Nascent Soul elders. After the tribulation is successfully passed, there will be one more immortal, which is the most cost-effective for the sect. Now, for the sake of King Feng's Hinran, Chanmei Xianren is actually willing to take out the fortune pill. This courage really shocked Su Jian. Although he also wanted his apprentice to improve his cultivation as soon as possible, he never dared to ask his master for this fortune pill. Ling Yunpo had racked his brains before, and now he had already thought of how to refuse, so he said with a firm expression, I appreciate the good intentions of the immortal, but the fortune pill is too precious. If the young elder takes it, he can immediately reach the immortal level and play the greatest value of this pill. Although my cultivation is low, I am appreciated by the divine sword and cared for by the master, but I dare not waste such a divine pill for my own selfish desires, otherwise I am afraid that my Tao heart will be covered with dust and my sword heart will be lacking. This divine pill, I can't accept it. Ling Yunpo said these righteous words so loudly that Su Jian and Chanmei Immortal were completely dumbfounded. Faced with a great opportunity that could be achieved overnight, he could refuse it without changing his expression and think about the sect wholeheartedly. What a good child. Chapter 892. Forcing King Hin to conceive. It's really good that you have such ambition. The long-browed immortal praised, but this path is your top priority, and it's not the time for you to consider the sect. That's right. Su Jian also nodded and said, what is a big deal? Qin Sword Master improves his cultivation realm as soon as possible. This is the biggest thing for us in Shushan. The two people's words and deeds were domineering, which made Ling Yunpo very headache. Although it was indeed for his own good, as long as he reached the Nascent Soul realm, he would definitely be carried out to compete with Qiu Cheng Tian. With the previous experience, he didn't dare to agree, and hurriedly declined, saying, a real man is born in the world, how can he rely on the alchemy of his ancestors? I, Kim Feng's Hinran, don't want to lose my original intention, please take back the elixir. He also said the refusal in a sonorous and powerful way, with a red tiger eye, a firm look, and a resolute expression, as if you reward me like this again, I will turn against you. So the immortal Chanmei was even more moved. He had been in the position of the immortal of the sect for 10,000 years, and had long been accustomed to all kinds of ugliness. Not to mention the magic pill that can make people skip a realm. Even an ordinary ki replenishing pill can cause brothers to turn against each other and husbands and wives to become enemies. Because of this, he did not believe that there was any true love that could transcend such extremely realistic conflicts of interest. However, true Manking Fen, he really did not intend to take the God of Creation pill. I could see from his firm eyes that he was not pretending to shirk it for the sake of false reputation. Otherwise, with the two sides pulling until now, he could have taken it with peace of mind, without worrying about causing disgust from the elders. This child is really determined to be strong, and does not want to drag down the sect because of himself. Thinking of this, the immortal Chanmei was even more moved, and coupled with the fact that I had indeed misunderstood him for too long before, the corresponding shame and touching mixed together, and the mind of compensating him became more determined. Since you don't want the creation pill, we won't force you. The long-eyebrowed immortal said, I still have some dragon blood pills here, you can take them. Ling Yunpo was slightly startled. Lily and I have been looking for several months outside before we found the ancient dragon in the dragon prison well and got the dragon blood pill, but you, the Shushan immortal, just touched it and took out one. Oh, there is Yin Long in the locking demon tower, so it's okay. However, the method of sealing the dragon blood of the Jialong is a secret of the dragon clan. Even if the long-eyebrowed immortal can get the dragon blood, he should not know this method, right? This dragon blood pill is extremely strong in nature. After taking it, you will be in danger of being burned by fire. The long-browed immortal continued, so you need to bathe in the 10,000-year-old ice to control the heat with the cold and keep your body safe. Ling Yunpo was about to refuse, but he heard the long-browed immortal instructing Su Jian without question. The 10,000-year-old ice is in the cunning cave. Go get it later. Yes. Su Jian cupped his hands and agreed, only to hear the long-browed immortal say again. Ice and fire torture each other from the inside and outside, which has requirements on the root bones and will of the cultivator. You have the consuming sword as your natal sword, and you were born with a sword bone body, so your root bones are definitely not a problem. But to ensure that there is no risk, I have a 10,000-year warm jade here. You can wear it close to your body when you digest the dragon blood. It has the ability to repair and nourish your body, and you will have a better chance. Ling Yunpo was about to refuse, but Su Jian had already reached out and took the 10,000-year warm jade that the long-browed immortal took out from his sleeve, and smiled and said, "The immortal has given this treasure, so it will definitely be safe. As for willpower, I believe that with your strong character, there will definitely be no problem." The long-browed immortal said again, but just in case, Ling Yunpo waved his hands hurriedly, and only heard the long-browed immortal continue to say, "Ask the immortal Jing Xiao to stay with him." Ling Yunpo couldn't help but burst into tears in his heart. This is good, there is no way to get away with it. I sent the elixir and the magic weapon, the master took it on my behalf, and the senior sister protected me. There is no way to shirk it. Can I only force myself to take the medicine and then say that the medicine has no effect on me? It's too fake. This dragon blood pill works for everyone, why is it ineffective on you? You are born with sword bones, not leaky bones. Otherwise, just say that the medicine was absorbed by the consuming sword. This seems feasible. Anyway, the consuming sword is a magic sword, with a lonely and eccentric personality, and is unwilling to communicate with people. Suddenly, it absorbed all the medicine in my body. I'm also helpless. Otherwise, you can talk to the consuming sword and ask it to spit out the medicine, ha 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 ha. Ling Yunpo made up his mind to thank the long-browed immortal profusely. Seeing that the child knew how to be grateful and his expression was so sincere, the long-browed immortal somehow felt more guilty and hated himself for not being able to distinguish right from wrong in the past. He whispered to Su Jian, "Your disciple is a person of good character. You and I have treated him too badly in the past. You must make up for it in the future." Su Jian nodded in agreement, but he was secretly complaining in his heart. "You have treated him badly, but I haven't. I just had to do it because I was in seclusion, and I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a master. But what the immortal said was indeed right, and I must make it up to him in the future, but he kidnapped my own daughter, how should this be handled?" After leaving the demon-locking tower, Su Jian was full of complaints and thinking. He brought Ling Yunpo back to King Luo Peak and explained to Nzisu. South of Shushan, close to the border of southern Xinjiang, there is a cunning cave. It contains the essence of 10,000 years of ice, and the snow never melts all year round. It is a confidential place of our Shushan and must not be leaked to fellow disciples. Your junior brother King Fen needs to reach the great perfection of the golden core realm as soon as possible. The immortal has given you the dragon blood pill, which needs to be soaked in the 10,000 years of ice to use the power of cunning to resist the dragon blood in the body. Under the double torture of ice and fire, the will of the cultivator is extremely high, so you stay by his side to protect him and make sure he doesn't lose his mind. Nzisu naturally agreed. Su Jian took out the 10,000-year warm jade, handed it to Ling Yunpo and said, "It was given by the immortal. I guess with your personality, you'll definitely not accept it. So I took it for you first and now I give it to you." Ling Yunpo took the 10,000-year warm jade numbly, thinking to himself, "Master, you really understand me. This warm jade does not need to be activated, just wear it close to your body, it will be able to warm the body." Su Jian continued, "This treasure is very precious, you must keep it well." "Thank you, Master, and thank you, Immortal," Ling Yunpo said sincerely. "There is no time to lose." Su Jian finally waved his hand, "Kim Fen, you are the future of our Shushan. We have to compete with cunning, and you have to take on this important task. So don't worry about whether you have the help of external objects or not, you must practice to the golden core realm as soon as possible, just succeed, don't fail." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 893. Keep it fair. Yinfen Mountain is what the local mountain dwellers call it, because the climate here is extremely cold. The deeper you go into the mountain, the more creepy it is, so no one wants to get close. In the Shushan sect, there is no record of this mountain. Of course, most of the thousands of hills in Shushan are also unrecorded. However, in this Yinfeng mountain, there is a cunning cave. The so-called cunning is the fusion of water and true yin, which is also a rare wonderland in the world of cultivation. Since many water-based magic sect techniques must be guided by the cunning key, the Shushan high-level officials have strictly sealed the whereabouts of this cave. Otherwise, once it is leaked, no matter how heavily you guard it, there will be magic sect monks who will take risks and come to find that trace of this cunning cave. Su Jian brought Ling Yunpo and Zisu to a deep valley somewhere and landed in front of a narrow mountain gap. The cunning cave is in this mountain gap. Su Jian said, "I'll be on guard outside, Sua, take King Feng in." Ling Yunpo looked at the mountain gap carefully, and saw water flowing overhead, and a stream flowing down the stone wall, making the cave extremely cold. Such a damp and cold cave, even if someone happened to pass by, they would definitely not want to take the risk to explore. No wonder it has not been discovered by the outside world so far. Compared with this matter, how to deal with the dragon blood pill is a matter that needs to be decided as soon as possible. Ling Yunpo's original plan was to take the dragon blood pill and then say that the medicinal power was absorbed by the Qin's human sword, which led to the failure of the cultivation to increase. The Qin's human sword is a divine sword, and it is not surprising that it will do anything, so this lie is likely to be made up. The only problem is that it is a pity to directly waste a precious dragon blood pill. You know, this dragon blood only has miraculous effect when the human cultivators are in the Ui level of Dan transformation. Taking this pill at other times can only consolidate the strength of the bones of most, and the medicinal power is completely wasted. Then again, why not give it to senior sister Anne? Such thoughts quickly grew in Ling Yunpo's mind. Especially when he thought about how he helped Shilili reach the great perfection of the Ui stage, but didn't help senior sister Anne, he felt that he was being overly partial. What's wrong with senior sister Anne? Although Lady Luli was smart and considerate enough, she always asked questions, requiring Luo Yan to be extremely alert to deal with them. Senior sister Anne didn't have this problem. She accepted everything he said and never doubted it. It was clear that she trusted him to the extreme. If Lady Luli could improve her cultivation, why couldn't senior sister Anne get help? Just because she hasn't married yet? Thinking of this, Ling Yunpo immediately had a better idea. A good idea that would not allow him to continue to upgrade, but also brush up the synchronization value of his personality. He walked in the gap of the mountain, carefully avoiding the flowing water around, turned around and said, "Senior sister, there are too many mosses ahead, the ground is slippery, please hold my hand." Zisu then obediently stretched out his hand and let Ling Yunpo gently hold it, completely forgetting that he was a Shushan sword immortal who had washed his marrow and cut his meridians, and his balance was so good that he almost never fell. Ling Yunpo felt the warm body temperature in his hand, and said casually, "Alas, senior sister, I'm so annoyed." "What's wrong?" Zisu asked curiously. "The immortal wants me to take this dragon blood pill and forcibly ascend to the great perfection of the subtle level of the Jindan realm." Ling Yunpo took out the pill in his arms and sighed, "It's just that I once promised Qin's human sword that I need to advance to the Yuning realm by my own strength and never rely on any external force, and it agreed to recognize me as its master. If I take the pill, will it be considered a break of promise?" Zisu still had a smile on his face when he listened to the first part, but he became serious when he heard the second part. Of course, she also knew how important the title of Qin Sword Master was. If the Qin's human sword turned against its master because of taking the dragon blood pill, then it must not be taken again. "Have you told master about this?" Zisu asked seriously. "Of course not, how could he give me the dragon blood pill if he told me?" Ling Yunpo sneered in his heart, but said, "Originally, I asked it about this, but it didn't answer, so I didn't tell master and the immortal, but it just gave me a reply, saying that this would definitely not work. In that case, let's go out and find master." Zisu was about to turn around, but her hand was held tightly by Ling Yunpo. The reason why he proposed holding hands just now was not because of the beauty, but because he wanted to prevent senior sister from escaping at this time, so Ling Yunpo immediately said, "Senior sister, what are you going to say when you go out? Tell her that you can't take this pill anymore." Zisu was puzzled. "Then what?" Ling Yunpo persuaded, "Then return this elixir to the immortal. Sister, you have to know that the reason why the immortal gave such a precious elixir is actually to compensate us. Have you forgotten that he treated us harshly before? If we return the elixir, the immortal will definitely think that we don't accept his compensation, so Master will definitely not do this. Then, Zisu pondered. It's just that she usually thinks too little and has no experience in dealing with interpersonal relationships. In addition, her junior brother is here, so she subconsciously asked, "So what? In our King Luo Peak, besides me, isn't it you, sister, who is suitable for taking this elixir?" Ling Yunpo smiled casually. "Me? No, Zisu refused subconsciously. "How can I, as your senior sister, take your things? It's not mine." Ling Yunpo immediately glared. "Junior brother, I can't take this pill. Senior sister, have you forgotten?" Then, that can't be. Zisu was still struggling, and she heard Ling Yunpo approaching and making a devilish voice in her ear, saying, "Senior sister, you don't want to be left behind by me in your cultivation progress, right? If you go on like this, where is your dignity? Woo." So the words that Zisu said at the throat immediately turned into hesitant sobs and hesitation. In fact, since entering the Golden Core realm, Zisu has been troubled by this. It was obviously her who entered the door first, so how come her cultivation progress was surpassed by her junior brother? Of course, it's not that Zisu was jealous and can't stand seeing her junior brother being better than her, but because Su Jian himself is a very traditional person in the relationship between master and sect. The master should have the dignity of the master, and the senior sister should also play the role of a senior sister as a role model. He has taught Zisu this way since he was a child. The progress of the junior brother's cultivation surpassed that of the senior sister. This must be an abnormal master-disciple relationship. Should the junior brother be blamed for his rapid progress? Of course, the senior sister should be blamed for being too lazy. From then on, she fell into a kind of pessimism that was difficult to get rid of, and felt that she was really useless. Now that such an opportunity happened to come, Zisu couldn't say the words she wanted to refuse. Chapter 894 Sister, you don't want to. Seeing that Zisu was already wavering, Ling Yunpo quickly struck while the iron was hot. If senior sister can be promoted to the nascent soul realm, there will be fewer people outside gossiping about us, right? But, Zisu insisted, this is your opportunity after all. As a senior sister, how can I benefit from your opportunity? I can't use this opportunity. Ling Yunpo also had a headache. Isn't senior sister usually very easy to talk to? Why is she so stubborn about the things that benefit her? Even if you can't use it, I can't take it from you. Zisu still refused to give in. Oh, senior sister. Ling Yunpo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Whose opportunity do you declare? Anyway, for master, it's either for you or for me. But now, hasn't it been given to you? Zisu was still stubborn. Please, senior sister. No. The two quarreled in the cave, and the echoes kept repeating around them, making Ling Yunpo dizzy. He simply said angrily, "If senior sister doesn't want this dragon blood pill, I will throw it away." "You throw it away?" Zisu said with a cold face. "It's your own thing, you are free to throw it away." "I won't throw it away." Ling Yunpo changed his words and said, "I ate it. Then Qin Suman Jian turned against me and left me. This is all senior sister's fault." "That's enough." Suman Jian couldn't help but say, "It's okay to use me as a cover, but now you two are quarreling and you want to frame me. It's too much." "You." Zisu was a little furious. If junior brother lost the title of Qin Sword Master because of quarreling with her, she would definitely not forgive herself. However, being threatened by her junior brother with such a thing, she felt uncomfortable that her senior sister's dignity was gone. Forget it. Anyway, no matter in terms of cultivation progress or sword fighting strength, she had already lost to him. Seeing that Zisu was silent, Ling Yunpo asked tentatively, "Senior sister, you don't want me to lose the title of Qin Sword Master, right?" "That's enough." Zisu whispered, as if begging, and as if she was angry. "Okay, whatever you want, then do it." Ling Yunpo was overjoyed and hurriedly pulled her sister to go deeper, and soon arrived near a pool of water. The pool of water seemed dead, but there were wisps of white gas steaming above the pool. Looking closely, there were countless fine ice sands on the surface of the pool, emitting cold air above the pool, like silk threads, continuous. "Okay, senior sister." Ling Yunpo smiled, "Take the dragon blood pill, and then go into the pool." Zisu did not move. Go ahead, go ahead." Ling Yunpo pushed her from behind, coaxing her like a child. "I'll let senior sister wear the 10,000 years worn jade too. Wow, it looks so good on senior sister's neck." Zisu half-heartedly took the dragon blood pill, and then soaked in the pool. Under the effect of the dragon blood, the skin under the Taoist robe gradually turned red. Ling Yunpo was guarding beside him, and he heard Kung Linjing suddenly say, "I didn't expect you to be so caring. I have never been stingy with any benefits for my own people." Ling Yunpo said complacently. "Then have you ever thought about it?" Kunlun Mira laughed at him. "When senior sister Am's strength soars, one day she suddenly finds out that you have 4 lovers outside, will she personally pick up a sword to hunt you down? How is that possible?" Ling Yunpo said disdainfully, "When I get the fragment of the heaven repairing stone from Shushan, I will just fake my death and get away, okay? By then, senior sister will only cry bitterly in front of my tombstone and regret for the rest of her life. How can she have the chance to hunt me down? Ha ha, as long as you are happy." "Why?" Ling Yunpo asked suspiciously. "From what you said, you were planning to do something bad and trip me up." "I didn't say that." Kunlun Mira said quickly, "I just think that your senior sister won't fall for it so easily. After all, she has a clear sword heart." "So what if she has a clear sword heart?" Ling Yunpo snorted coldly. "Without enough experience in dealing with people, she is just a fool, okay?" Kunlun Mira remained silent. "Anyway, I have already made all the reminders that should be made. No matter whether senior sister was kept in the dark and was very sad, or whether she found some clues and came to find him because of accidents, coincidences, and mistakes, it is none of my business." "Ha ha, no spiritual sense scanning." Zisu shouted again, and took out the Feian sword, intending to use the fire-based Taoism on it to dry clothes and hair. "Sister, spiritual sense scanning can't see the details," Ling Yunpo reminded. "Anyway, no spiritual sense scanning." Zisu began to be unreasonable. "Promise not to use spiritual sense scanning," Ling Yunpo said seriously with his back to her. Then he told Kunlun Mira, "Amira, quickly scan and record the current system for me. I want high-definition image details, understand?" Kunlun Mira pretended not to hear. Zisu dried the clothes, checked her own cultivation, and sighed again. Obviously, her cultivation has improved. Why is she so uncomfortable? "Sister, you know what to say when you meet Master after you go out, right?" Ling Yunpo asked to confirm. If it was Lily's wife, she would be able to realize it without reminding herself, and she would even take the initiative to help find excuses. But for Sister Am, Ling Yunpo didn't have that confidence, so he had to string together the confession in advance. Zisu frowned and thought, "Isn't it because you threatened me with the title of Qin Sword Master and forced me to take the Dragon Blood Pill?" "Of course not." Ling Yunpo was shocked and quickly corrected her. "It was because Qin Suming Sword suddenly said that I must rely on my own strength to break through, so I gave the Dragon Blood Pill to senior sister. Senior sister was unwilling to benefit from this, but after my pleading, she finally agreed reluctantly." Seeing his horrified expression, Zisu's resentment from being threatened was also vented, and she regained her gentle temperament, nodded and said, "Okay, then just treat it as you're pleading." Chapter 895. Holding it in for a long time, the two left Chuaning Cave and returned to the valley. They saw Su Jian standing on the top of the mountain boredly, manipulating 2 swords to fight each other, playing the game of left and right fighting. "Come out." Seeing that the two had appeared, Su Jian landed on his sword. "How was it?" "Very smooth." Ling Yunpo smiled. "It's good that it went smoothly." Su Jian nodded and said, "In that case, then let's prepare to pass the tribulation next." "Do we have to choose to pass the tribulation within the territory of Shushan?" Ling Yunpo asked. "Of course." Su Jian said without thinking, "If we pass the tribulation outside, the risk is too great." "I see." Ling Yunpo nodded and said, "Then let's pass the tribulation inside Shushan, but, don't worry." Su Jian said with a smile, "The immortals will also come out at the time. If there is another traitor like last time, the 2 yin and yang microdust sword formation will kill him directly without waiting for the other party to make a move, and will not let the other party interfere with the tribulation." "That's great." Ling Yunpo showed a relieved expression. Zisu listened silently beside her, wondering if the two were talking about different things. Just as she was about to speak, Su Jian had already flown away on his sword to report the good news to the long-eyebrowed immortal. "Let's go, senior sister." Ling Yunpo said with a smile, "Let's go back to King Luo Peak to rest." Zisu followed her junior brother and silently returned to King Luo Peak, looking inward at her own Danton in the room. According to common sense, the subtle stage of the Golden Core realm is to mount the Golden Core and let the essence in it feed back to the Danton, laying the foundation for the next step of forming a fetus. Since the golden core itself is a very young thing, the process of grinding the golden core is extremely long, and it is no exaggeration to say that it takes a lot of time, and the degree of grinding is comparable to the warm and nourishing purple palace of the foundation building realm. However, there is the same extremely fiery dragon blood, which means that fire overcomes gold, and can quickly melt the golden core and turn it into a mysterious and subtle one. For ordinary golden core cultivators, this method is really too extravagant. After all, to make the material of dragon blood pill, the dragon itself must be at least at the ancestor level. Since the demon race migrated to the East Empire realm on a large scale, how can there be any ancestor level dragons? The most powerful demon in the cultivation world today is probably the cunning genus. Most of these demons are solitary and will not occupy the territory in groups, which is why they're allowed to exist by the human race. As for demons with advanced intelligence like Jialong, they are basically in the locking demon tower. In short, Zisu was fully aware of the preciousness of this dragon blood pill. Because of this, when the junior brother gave this opportunity to her, she had a strong resistance and discomfort. The senior sisters in this world should love, protect and take care of the junior brothers. Why is it that when it comes to me, the situation is completely reversed? It's all because I'm too useless. Now Zisu, who has reached the great perfection of the golden pill realm, has no joy at all for the improvement of his skills, but can't help sighing repeatedly. Forget it, I'd better go to the master to make it clear. She came to the demon locking tower and happened to meet Su Jian, who was coming out. She told him the situation. Su Jian was dumbfounded when he heard it. What? The one who cultivated to the great perfection of the golden core realm was not King Fen, but Su. Thinking of his previous conversation with Ling Yunpo, Su Jian soon realized that there was a huge misunderstanding. After all, Kim Fen was too strong-willed. How could he make such a bet with Qin's human sword? However, perhaps it was precisely because of this strong-willedness that Qin's human sword valued him. Thinking of this, Su Jian was not angry. Anyway, the dragon blood pill went from King Fen to Su, which would definitely not be a disadvantage for the King Luo peak lineage. But how to explain it to the Longmei immortal? Su Jian had a headache for a long time, and could only take Zisu and turn around toward to the bottom of the demon locking tower. The immortal Chanmei originally learned from Su Jian that Ling Yunpo had taken the dragon blood pill and reached the golden elixir realm great perfection. He was immediately relieved and felt very relieved. From the immortal Chanmei to Su Jian, and then to Zisu, the 3 generations of master and apprentice had been unreasonable and protective of their shortcomings. The reason why he disliked King Luo Peak before was because he was angry because of Su Jian, and he did not regard King Fen Jingxiao was his disciple. Now it is the other way round. The immortal Chanmei is willing to regard King Fen as his disciple and make up for it. But King Fen has a grudge against him as his master because of the previous things. He is obviously extremely protective of his shortcomings, but he is not allowed to protect his shortcomings. How can the immortal Chanmei not mind? Now it seems that King Fen is really a sensible child. On the one hand, he has his own integrity and dignity, and will not forget himself when he sees benefits. On the other hand, he knows to accept the kindness of his elders in time and will not embarrass his elders. Why didn't I notice such a child before? The long-browed immortal fell into deep contemplation, not realizing that he was too stubborn. Anyway, if you like someone, you ignore all his shortcomings, and if you hate someone, you ignore all his advantages. This is also the old tradition of the long-browed Su Jian lineage. Just when the long-browed immortal was puzzled, he saw Su Jian coming to visit again with Zisu. The long-browed immortal was much closer to Zisu, mainly because she had never been shocked by her flying sword. Oh, Jingxiao. He nodded to Su Jian first, then looked at Zisu and said kindly, what do you want to see the master for? Have you encountered difficulties in cultivation, or are you lacking any resources? Reporting to the master. Zisu bowed her head and saluted, and then carefully told the story. The more she talked, the more uncomfortable she felt. She thought that she was really incompetent as a senior sister. She actually asked her junior brother to take care of her cultivation, which made her feel depressed and ashamed. The immortal with long eyebrows was stunned, and after a long while he said, That means he didn't reach the great perfection of the golden core realm? No. Zisu was ashamed. The immortal with long eyebrows looked at Su Jian, his beard moving slightly, and whispered, too strong-willed. Yes. Su Jian also nodded and said, Kim Fen, he is too strong-willed to make such a bet with Qin's human sword. But if not, how could he win the favor of Qin's human sword? The immortal with long eyebrows thought about it, and it was true. A divine sword like Qin's human sword must be chosen by itself. Only a sword immortal like King Fen, who is gifted, courageous, wise, and extremely tenacious, can be favored by Qin's human sword. The two of them sighed over there, but they didn't know that if Qin's human sword heard their thoughts, it would definitely burst into laughter. In short, since there is a bet of not relying on external forces, Shu Shan can't force things to happen anymore, and can only let Qin Sword Master rely on himself. But if Qin Sword Master's senior sister Jiang Xiao can be the first to form a baby and grow up, it will be of great help in maintaining the warming relationship with Qin Sword Master. Thinking of this, Su Jian said, "In this case, let's you prepare for the baby formation tribulation first." Okay. The long-browed immortal nodded. Chapter 896. Let's not talk about Nzisu's nascent soul for now. Because the news of Kunlun's Chan Zhengzhenren's nascent soul soon spread throughout the world. A first-grade golden elixir, forming a first-grade immortal infant, is equivalent to crushing peers in terms of rank, so that everyone stopped discussing the matter of Qin Sword Master, and started to discuss whether a first-grade immortal infant can be guaranteed to become a golden immortal. Shu Shan was naturally very frustrated, but Qin Sword Master and Qin Suming Jian made an agreement to advance to the nascent soul stage by their own strength and never accept external assistance, so the Shu Shan high-level officials were helpless. Su Jian told the situation to many peak masters, and everyone looked at each other, and could not think of any solution. Not long after Ling Yunpo returned to King Luo Peak, he was called by Su Jian to the Demon Locking Tower to discuss countermeasures. Kim Hen. Su Jian asked Ling Yunpo at the bottom of the Locking Demon Tower, "Now Kunlun is using Chan Zheng's infant formation to suppress us again. How do you think Shu Shan should deal with it?" Ling Yunpo complained in his heart. "You should go and discuss this with the peak masters and elders. Why ask me, a Jintan's Hinran?" However, there were only Changma Xianran, Su Jian and himself present. They happened to be the third generation of master and apprentice, and they were also that future power successors at Shu Shan. Su Jian asked himself like this, which was a bit of a test. Ling Yunpo pondered for a moment and replied, "There is no need to fight with Kunlun." "Why?" Su Jian raised his eyebrows and asked. If someone else said this, he would definitely sneer at the other party for being cowardly, but his own apprentice was always wise, so it was not easy to make a direct judgment. Let's listen to his reasons. It's very simple. Ling Yunpo replied, "If you want to suppress Kunlun on this, there is only one way, that is, I defeat Chan Zheng in a fight." "Yes." Su Jian and Changma Xianran nodded in unison. Defeating the opponent proves that you are stronger than the opponent. This is the fastest, simplest and most convincing method. But Kunlun knows this and will never let Chan Zheng fight me. Ling Yunpo continued, "He formed a fetus so quickly because Kunlun Tai King sect invested resources in this area and spared no effort to promote his path. Even if I didn't make a vow with Qin's human sword, even if Shu Shan tried its best to support my cultivation, could I catch up with the speed of Chan Zheng's improvement?" His question made Su Jian and Changma Xianran silent. Both of them wanted to answer yes, but the other party was a Taoist who had an advantage in cultivation and improvement. He also practiced the Nine Heavens Kingway realm mantra. Comparing his cultivation level with him was like a casual cultivator competing with Qin Sword Master in sword control. The gap in hardware was overwhelming, so how could they compare? The cultivation level was different, so the other party could naturally use the reason of not bullying the weak with the strong to reject your invitation to fight. Shu Shan Shan King sect was not a demon sect. If the fight failed, would they just sneak attack? Impossible. Are we going to stop fighting? Su Jian frowned and asked again. What are we fighting for? Why do I have to make things difficult for myself? Ling Yunpo complained in his heart, but said, "It's not impossible to fight." Why? Su Jian and Changma Xianran's eyes lit up. Some time ago, Kunlun fought with the demon cult and lost a lot of territory. Ling Yunpo replied, "Although we gradually regained it later, it ultimately exposed the fact that Kunlun cultivators are not good at fighting and can only rely on their realm to suppress others. If the demon cult attacks one day, and my Shu Shan can win beautifully, the world will naturally compare it with Kunlun's previous poor performance. Who is stronger and who is weaker, is there any need to say?" These words just tickled Su Jian and Changma Xianran's itch. What's the point of comparing the realm of cultivation? Real men should fight with real swords and guns. That's it. The long-browed immortal nodded and said to Su Jian, "Pay attention to the movements of the demon cult recently. If there is a chance, wipe them out." Yes. Su Jian agreed immediately. After leaving the demon locking tower, Ling Yunpo breathed a sigh of relief. He finally got himself out. Jin, he asked in his heart, did you sense the fragment of the heaven-repairing stone in the sword pillar behind the long-eyebrowed immortal? Kunlun Jin hesitated to speak. It seems to be used to consolidate the ceiling formation of the demon-locking tower. Really? Ling Yunpo said thoughtfully. Now that the long-eyebrowed immortal has resigned from his position as the sect's immortal, he stays on the bottom floor of the demon-locking tower all day long. It's not easy to get the fragment. Does that mean we have to find a way to invite him back, let him participate more in Shushan's political affairs, and stay less in the demon-locking tower? Hey! Kunlun Jin couldn't help but say, did you hear that? I'm telling you, the fragment of the heaven-repairing stone is used to seal the demon-locking tower. So what? Ling Yunpo said strangely, if we really find the opportunity, we have to get the fragment even if it means breaking the demon-locking tower. Compared with the catastrophe of world destruction and the leakage of the demon-locking tower, which one is more serious? I don't need to tell you, right? But it's different. Kunlun Jin said worriedly, if the world-destroying disaster cannot be saved, it doesn't matter to you. But if the demon-locking tower is leaked, the killings and karma caused by the demons running rampant outside will all be counted on you. Ling Yunpo heard this and felt warm in his heart. I thought she couldn't bear to see the lives of the people suffer, but I didn't expect that she was thinking about me. Don't worry, Jin. He said gently, even if you want to take the sky-repairing stone from Shushan by force, I will find a way to prevent the demons in the demon-locking tower from escaping. Well, that's good. Kunlun Jin was relieved to see that he didn't insist on his own way. You have become more powerful. Suman Jian said suddenly in a sea of consciousness, you're obviously worried about the lives of the people, but you say it as if you are thinking about him. Your speech skills have improved. Ah? Kunlun Jin was puzzled. Suman Jian was stunned for a moment, and said in disbelief. No way, you are not really worried about him? What if? Kunlun Jin sighed, if I don't remind him, what if he really commits a serious sin and attracts the attention of the heavenly being? At this point, her voice paused for a moment, and then said, he came to find these fragments of the heaven-repairing stone because of my request. If he really commits a sin, of course I am also responsible for it. What's wrong with me worrying a little? Nothing. Suman Jian said sullenly, sneering in his heart. Who is the mirror who told me in the past that cooperation with him is just a pure exchange of interests? What's more, with Chen Yonzu's flexibility, do we still have to worry that he will sacrifice himself to bear so many sins in order to get the fragments? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Who do you think he is? Suman Jian thought of this and suddenly realized that something was wrong. Hey, you are not. Chapter 897 White Face and Red Face. Facing the questioning of Suman Jian, Kunlun Mirror was also puzzled. He helped me find the heaven-fixing stone, and I helped him avoid danger. It was obviously a mutually beneficial thing, so how could it be a loss? Not to mention the argument between the sword and the mirror, Ling Yunpo was very eloquent. In a few words, he changed the focus of the competition between Shushan and Kunlun from the competition of whose genius is better to the competition of who is better at fighting the demon cult. In this way, it is the overall strength of Shushan that is competing with the demon cult, and it has nothing to do with me, Kim Feng's Hinran. After all, I'm just a humble Jintan's Hinran, and I can't normally exert the power of Qin Suman Jian, so I can only watch from the sidelines as a deterrent weapon. Ah Jin, it's time to read Wei Dongliu. Point 4. Zhongtai Peak, Tongshuan Med Station. Character Identity. Wei Dongliu. Mirror Flower Water Moon template is overwritten, and it is traveling through time and space. It has been several months since the last battle between Kunlun and the Six Paths. The Six Paths gathered again at Zhongtai Peak, and all the high-level officials were present. The purpose was nothing else but to divide the spoils. The Six Paths invaded and seized Kunlun's major resource points in the Gyeongthong area. The accumulated resources looted were divided among everyone. Needless to say, they just had to follow the agreed-upon share. But before the war, the Ingido misjudged the situation and thought they could occupy these mines for a long time. So in order to invite other sects to send troops, they promised a large sum of money. In fact, because Kunlun's counterattack came too quickly, although the Ingido carried out predatory mining before losing these resource points again, the harvest was not as much as expected. In this way, if the balance is paid according to the agreed-upon share, it will feel a bit disadvantageous. When Yang and Fushi, the head of the sect, accompanied them and entered the venue with cold faces, as if they were ready to make trouble and intimidate. On the Fanxingdo side, Wei Dongliu and Jian Gleam attended the meeting. They turned a blind eye to the unfriendly visitor from the Ingido and were at ease. On the Tianmo side, Ling Yunzhenren looked at everyone in the meeting with a smile, without saying anything, but just grinning. On the Donghuangduo side, Xia was still in person. This cheap master of Longlong always maintained a serious attitude and a cold expression in the cultivation world. On the Shirodao side, the one who attended this time was Master Shawa, who was also the Yining elder of the Shirodao. Next to him stood Gilai. After not seeing him for many days, the old man seemed to have formed a relic. At this time, he was standing by with his head lowered and his eyes lowered, not saying a word. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Wei Dongliu said calmly, "If there is no objection, then we will distribute it according to the shares agreed upon in advance." "Wait a minute." Wen Yang said coldly, "The shares agreed upon in advance are fine, but the premise is that the strategy is also in accordance with the agreed upon strategy. At the beginning, we agreed to attack Qilin and Tipchen Mountain in a two-pronged approach, but in the end, the army all withdrew to Tipchen Mountain to resist Kunlin, resulting in the major resource points in Qilin being exhausted overnight." "How do you explain this?" Qiu Changtai said indifferently. "In the direction of Tipchen Mountain, Kunlin put too much pressure, so we had to rescue it." "Rescue Shira Road, yes," Wen Yang said, knocking on the table, "but this rescue was not in vain. In order to rescue Shira Road, we gave up the occupation of the Gyeongthong area, resulting in the final harvest being much less than expected. Shouldn't this part be deducted from the share that Shira Road deserves?" Hearing this, everyone looked at each other, and except for the angry Master Shawa, no one raised any objections. To be honest, everyone agreed with Wen Yang's statement. The 6 sects claimed to be of the same blood, but in fact they were forced to stick together by the 3 pure ones of the Orthodox Church. So there is no problem in rescuing Tipchen Mountain, but it is impossible to rescue it in vain. Wen Yang said that Shirodao should pay the price, which is reasonable. Of course, the most important thing is that Yinggidio chose Shirodao this time and did not affect the interests of other sects, so no one was too lazy to say anything. Absurd. Master Shao slapped the table with his palm, so that the tabletop was instantly cracked. Wei Dongliu raised his eyebrows and only heard Master Shao say, "We Shirodao didn't want to participate in this hunting, but we had to come because of your invitation. In the end, it was our fault. If we hadn't cooperated with you at the beginning, Kunlun would not even send troops to Tipchen Mountain, so why would we need your help?" "What do you mean it's not for nothing? Why do we have to save it? Don't you have any idea in your mind?" He swept his angry eyes over everyone, and everyone pretended to be stupid and kept silent. Shio suddenly said, "Even if Shirodao does not participate in the siege of Kunlun, how can Kunlun believe that Tipchen Mountain is neutral this time, rather than pretending to be neutral and waiting for an opportunity to stack Kunlun in the side? To put it bluntly, your Tipchen Mountain is in a favorable location. Once a war breaks out, it will inevitably be attacked by Kunlun. It's just that you have been protected by the 6 Does in the past, so you can survive to this day. There were so many sects in ancient Kunlun in the past, but now there is only Kunlun Tai King sect. Don't you know how domineering and powerful Kunlun is?" Master Shao changed color when he heard it, but he couldn't say anything, and could only stare at Shiro with resentment. Others saw this scene and thought that Dong Huangdu and Shirodao had a dispute, but only Wei Dongliu saw at a glance that this cheap Master Shiro did not intend to offend Shirodao, but just wanted to end this meeting quickly. Her focus was still on the East Empire realm. The East Empire of Dao was protected by the Peach Blossom Miasma in the southern border, so there was basically no danger of the Dao being extinct. Therefore, she could say whatever she wanted in terms of diplomacy. Amitabha. Just when the situation on the Shirodao side was extremely unfavorable, Gilai beside Master Shao suddenly chanted the Buddha's name and said in a sad voice, "What you said is very true, however, our Shirodao has been seriously injured in resisting Kunlun. Even if the Engido pays according to the agreed share, it can only offset 1/10 or 1/20% of the losses of this trip. If this goes on, our Shirodao may really have to withdraw from the ranks of the 6 paths. This is not a threat to you, but it is really beyond our ability." Everyone was silent when they heard this. The Shirodao has always been known for its tyranny and arrogance. Now this old monk actually started to cry poor, which made everyone very uncomfortable. Crying poor is fine, but of course no one believes that they can make up for 1/10 or 1/12 of the loss. The key lies in the second half of Gilai's sentence, withdraw from the ranks of the 6 paths, which is really a bit cruel. The 6 paths really need an ale like Tipchen Mountain to stick in the side of Kunlun, otherwise Kunlun can send troops to Gyeongthong without restraint, and put more pressure on the Engido. For example, it is like 2 big countries need a small country as a buffer. Even if they fight, the small country will suffer. In a sense, the Ingido does need the Shirdudo as this western barrier. Wen Yang's face quickly turned ugly, and he heard the Fixie sect master suddenly say, "Well, we also know the difficulties of your sect, and we will discuss this later." The Fixie sect master sang the red face, which meant that the Ingido would no longer attack the Shirdudo next. So, who should the target be changed to? Wen Yang thought silently. Chapter 898. Jing the witch wants to be a good mother, Wei the demon lord goes to the hell. After thinking for a while, Wen Yang was horrified to find that there seemed to be no one to attack. Shirdudo fought desperately and could not be forced. Dong Huangduo had little share and was fearless. If there was anyone else who could be talked to, it would probably be only Mortal Duo and Heavenly Demon Duo. Mortal Duo, needless to say, Wei Laomo was simply a big devil. Even the white-bone venerable had to look at him differently. Wen Yang did not have the confidence to snatch food from his tiger's mouth. As for Heavenly Demon Duo, it was still possible to compete with it, but now this sect did not know what was wrong, and followed Mortal Duo closely throughout the whole process, making it seem as if the two sects were really of the same blood, so that Wen Yang was a little unsure of their relationship. In terms of strength alone, neither of the two sects could compare with the Ingido, but their combined strength was stable and suppressed the Ingido. If the Heavenly Demon Duo really made up its mind to advance and retreat with Mortal Duo, then the Ingido would have no way to compete with them. In this case, isn't there anything we can do? Wen Yang couldn't help but look at Master Fixie, only to see that the latter shook his head imperceptibly. No chance? Forget it, even the master can't see the chance, which shows that the current situation is indeed not optimistic. Anyway, the Ingido has gained a lot of benefits in this war. Now it's just a little painful to fulfill the promise, but it's far from the point of physical pain. Forget it, I'll give Master Wei a face. Master Fixie said, although it didn't go as planned in the end, let's do it this way. The implication is that the Ingido suffered a great loss, but it only gave up for Wei Dongliu's sake. For this kind of behavior of taking advantage of others, other sects calmly ignored it. Wei Dongliu waved his hand and asked, "Then, do you have any objections?" So the matter was settled. The remaining procedures for dividing the spoils will naturally be delivered and checked by the deacons under the sect, and these sect leaders don't need to worry about it. After the meeting, there was a banquet. Although the monks have been fasting, it does not prevent them from eating and enjoying. Considering the fruitful harvest this time, everyone was happy to say something nice to each other and make the atmosphere more lively and cheerful. Jianglin was not interested in these things, so she just sat there drinking bored. She was planning a very important thing recently: pregnancy. The body of the Great Freedom Demon was too different from that of the human race, and the possibility of pregnancy was basically zero. Strictly speaking, they belonged to spiritual life and did not reproduce through sex and childbirth at all. But Jianglin was now addicted to playing the role of a good wife and began to think about how to be a better mother. Of course, she had to start with giving birth. Various mysterious secrets left by the demons kept turning in her mind. Unfortunately, most demons were only interested in eating, so the secrets were basically how to find food, how to deceive food and how to eat food. In addition to this, most of the original secrets were considered by the demons to be heretical gadgets, so they were almost not circulated. The only secret method related to childbirth is actually splitting in a strict sense, that is, splitting a child from oneself, without the help of any male. But how can this work? If my husband is not involved, how can this child be considered my and my husband's child? It's just a larger piece of foot skin that fell off from my body. Jiangli pondered secretly, feeling that he really couldn't find a similar method of childbirth for the demons, and it seemed that he could only make a slight improvement from the splitting method. For example, if my husband and I split a part of our body together and then knead it into a new offspring, wouldn't that be our child? The only problem is how to make my husband split. Oh, this is not difficult, the key is how to merge parts of our bodies into a new offspring. Just as Witch Jing was immersed in the ocean of design, Wei Dongliu, who had just dealt with the allies' chat, suddenly found that the magic weapon on his waist vibrated. The big boss behind the scenes called. Without looking, Wei Dongliu could guess what the other party contacted him for. Although the war had been temporarily stopped, the harvest had not been counted yet, and the 6 paths were still moving back and forth frequently. Now that the 6 paths have divided the spoils, everyone has returned from working together to a divided state of their own operations. This is definitely what the Hell Path does not want to see. They were still hoping to manipulate the 6 paths like a chess piece, but now the chess piece is about to go off the chessboard and go home. How can they be willing? He was not in a hurry to see the instructions of the big boss, but just chatted and laughed with the big brothers of the sects, showing the style of the leader. After the meeting, Wei Dongliu returned to the room, and then he took out the magic weapon unhurriedly to see the message sent from the opposite side. It's another meeting at the mountain temple. By the way, if there is any news planned, can't we communicate directly through this magic weapon? I'm also very annoyed to run to the depths of hell for a meeting every time, okay? Wei Dongliu set off reluctantly, and was discovered by Jiangmo Envy before he left the sect station. Jianglin was thinking about it, and suddenly saw her husband flying away without saying a word. An idea popped up in her mind. My husband goes out every once in a while. Could it be that he is going to let other women give birth to his children? Thinking of this, the great freedom heavenly demon immediately became furious. Under the boiling emotions, his magic skills also skyrocketed. I serve you as a demon, which is a blessing that you can't cultivate in 8 lifetimes. You are still hiding it from me outside, doing those secret things that cannot be told to me. Wow, I'm going to eat you alive. Jianglin also rose up in the clouds and chased after him quickly. I saw Wei Dongliu pressing down the sword light and escaping into a mountain temple somewhere, and disappeared in an instant. Here again. Jiangmo rushed into the mountain temple, looking everywhere for it but couldn't find it. Thinking of the experience of being teased last time, she immediately showed her magic power and raised the entire mountain temple to the ground. Wei Dongliu arrived at hell and came to the main hall of the sect's residence. He saw Taoist Ludo coming out with a serious face and said to him, "Number 9, the sect has really paid a lot for you. Wei Dongliu. You came at the right time. The sect is going to hold a meeting today and everyone will be present." Taoist Ludo continued, "This time we will mainly talk about your achievements in unifying the 6 paths. You must prepare well. So they asked me to report my work at the meeting in the afternoon, but only notified me at noon, right?" Wei Dongliu was speechless. But considering that he had to win the trust of the top leaders in order to seize the fragment of the heaven-repairing stone of hell, he could only endure it secretly. Soon, several clouds of smoke floated in. They were those unknown hell monks. Chapter 899 Mission Impossible. The fellow disciples of the Hell Path refused to reveal their true appearance even in the garrison, and they referred to each other by their numbers. The only exception was Wei Dongliu. Because he had achieved the position of the 6 Paths Alliance leader, and the content of the mission of No. 9 was public, everyone knew that No. 9 was Wei Dongliu. Of course, no one knew that Wei Dongliu himself was also a disguise. Soon, everyone was present. Except for the leader, Taoist Luo, the rest of the people were shrouded in black fog, and their faces could not be seen clearly. They could only know each other's numbers based on the order in which they sat. Although Wei Dongliu's identity was exposed, he followed the local customs and opened a layer of demonic black fog to cover his body. The reason for calling everyone here this time is to confirm the progress of your mission. Taoist Luo said calmly, "Let's start with No. 1. No. 1 cleared his throat and began to talk about his mission. Wei Dongliu listened silently beside him, and knew that No. 1 was a hidden man lurking in Pengliu King Temple. Although the other party deliberately concealed his identity, and the content of his narration was mainly based on the mission itself and the situation in Yu King Temple, how familiar was Wei Dongliu with Pengliu? He immediately guessed that the other party should be lurking in the Shendan Pavilion, and his status did not seem to be very high. Many speculations and analyses about Pengliu King are wrong, okay? After listening to No. 1, Taoist Luo did not comment, but said lightly, "Since the completion of No. 3's mission, Yu King Temple has vigorously investigated and cleaned up the spies. Although it has temporarily stopped now, it is loose outside and tight inside. Don't rush to find out the news. Everything is important not to expose yourself." No. 1 did not continue to answer, but just hummed. Wei Dongliu looked at No. 3 and knew that this person was probably Luo Yan's second sister Laocoon. Next, it was No. 2's turn. The voice of this black shadow seemed a little hoarse, and he liked to pause when speaking, plus stuttering, which made it very difficult for everyone to listen. It was unknown whether this person was born like this or pretended to be disguised. This person was not lurking in the 3 Pure Ones and 6 Paths, but was a novice monk in a Buddhist temple. The name of the Buddhist temple was Golden Cicada Temple, a name that Wei Dongliu had never heard of. He opened 5 small accounts at the same time and was a know-it-all in various sects. What was the origin of this Golden Cicada Temple that the hell lurked in it? As for the specific situations mentioned by No. 2, They were all trivial matters of Buddhism, such as where the presiding abbot had gone, who had entered the sutra library to practice, and so on. Taoist Luo listened silently without giving any instructions, but asked no. 3. How were things going on your side? The heavenly demon sect has been a little weird recently. No. 3 replied, it is said that the patriarch Zizaya has a drastic change in personality, and usually he hardly cares about government affairs, but as long as it involves the affairs of the mortal sect, he orders the sect master and others to fully cooperate without any mistakes. Many elders have suspected that this immortal was probably possessed by a demon, which led to his completely different appearance, but there is no evidence. In addition, the patriarch Zizaya's old power is still strong, and no one dares to test him now. They can only obey his orders silently. Wei Dongliu listened silently, thinking that after Lei Qin rebelled against Penglai, he changed his appearance and ran to the heavenly demon sect again. Well, Taoist Luo said coldly, his voice seemed a little unhappy. No. 3. I remind you to distinguish between public and private. Don't wear a mask on your face for a long time and you can't take it off. It doesn't matter. No. 3 said nonchalantly, anyway, everyone has guessed who I am, I might die one day. Although I was ordered by the sect to lurk in Penglai, Shiding did not owe me anything, but was very kind to me. Betraying him was the sect's mission and I had to do it, but the one who killed him was the leader of the Tianmodo, and I must avenge this hatred. Wei Dongliu. Oops, I feel a little ashamed of myself. After Elder Shiding died, I was always busy supporting the Tiangong workshop and taking care of Lady Luli, but I never thought about revenge for him, although it was also because of my lack of strength. I didn't fulfill my disciples' affection after all. The only one who wanted to take revenge was the second sister who had betrayed the sect. It's embarrassing. Well, now that I have formed an infant, I will find a time to kill Luo Yamza Count and kill the leader of the heavenly demon sect and the ghost mother sisters to comfort my master's spirit in heaven. Seeing that No. 3 had given up on himself, everyone didn't say much, but just looked at No. 4 and No. 5 at the same time. These two positions were empty, but no one knew why. I only heard No. 6 suddenly say, since No. 4 and No. 5 were killed by Qin Sword Master, the investigation of traitors has been particularly strict recently. I can't do anything, otherwise I will be in danger. Then you should lie dormant for now. Taoist Luo sighed and cursed, Qin Sword Master, what the hell is this thing? How come it seems to have suddenly jumped out of the cracks of the stone? Shushan has Qin Sword Master, which really disrupted our pace. No. 6 also sighed and said, overnight, the immortal abdicated, the headmaster was replaced, and the high-level environment almost changed dramatically. Most of the connections and information networks laid in the past are now paralyzed. I need more time to rebuild my connections, and I can't complete the tasks assigned by the sect for the time being. Wei Dongliu listened silently, sneered in his heart, and had already guessed the other party's identity. Either the disciple of Elder Mingwu or the disciple of Elder Linquan. These two are executed as the main culprits. Although their disciples were not punished, they were inevitably ignored by the other peaks. It was only natural that the network of contacts was completely paralyzed. Be careful, you, the insider, don't let me, Ling Yunpo, catch you. After No. 6 finished complaining, it was No. 7's turn. No. 7. He never said a word, and everyone looked at him in silence. Then, I only heard Taoist Luo say, okay, No. 8. Wei Dongliu was stunned. So you were just whispering in secret, right? What is there that can't be said at the gathering, but you have to whisper with the sect leader? Isn't this not treating the brothers as your own people? After No. 7 finished, No. 8 said, there is no big movement in Kunlun for the time being. Although this person's voice was also disguised, Wei Dongliu quickly recognized it. It seemed to be the guy who came to chat with him at the gate to the Hell Road last time. Elder Changzhen has formed his nascent soul, and many forces in Kunlun are busy trying to recruit disciples from him. I only heard No. 8 continue to say, it's a pity that the Ziwei sect leader personally selected 4 people, who were from the 4 major families of Zhu, Luo, Zhao and Ji. The rest were all rejected by Changzhen, and our hidden man was unable to infiltrate. Well, Taoist Luo said calmly, Changzhen is the future sect leader of Kunlun, and his disciples are naturally given the highest priority of safety and reliability. Don't think about him for the time being, just keep a low profile. Wei Dongliu didn't say anything, but his mind was racing. Zhu, Luo, and Zhao Ji did get the top 4 places in the road to ascension, so they were accepted by me as disciples. That's what it seems to outsiders. But what almost no one knows is that before the results of the road to ascension came out, the Ziwili sect leader had already decided on the quotas for these 4 people for me. Why did No. 8 know? Who is he? Chapter 900. Hidden Buddhist Temple, Sky Repairing Fragments. The identity of number 8 is really impossible to guess. The reason is very simple. The other party may not have learned it from Ziwili sect leader, but may have guessed it. The top 4 who completed the road to heaven happened to be the 4 major families of Zhu, Luo, Ji and Zhao. Most people would think that Changzheng accepted disciples according to the ranking. But why only the top 4, and not the top 5 or 6? It is not strange to guess that Ziwili sect leader intervened and gave instructions. But Wei Dongliu noticed that the tone of number 8 was quite firm, and it did not seem like an unfounded guess. He hoped that number 8 could say something about cunning, so that he could further narrow down the possibility of the other party's identity, but number 8 stopped here at the right time and then shut up. So Wei Dongliu, as number 9, could only start to talk about the work he had done. It would be fine if he didn't speak, but once he spoke a few words, the work results of the others immediately paled in comparison. You know, the others are either still dormant or running away, and there is also No. 3 who takes revenge for personal gain, and No. 4 and No. 5 who sacrifice themselves first. Wei Dongliu thought that if he were Taoist Luo, he would be furious to death when he saw all these useless people in the sect. In comparison, Wei Dongliu's work was all completed beautifully and in excess, like a clear stream in a mudslide. How could one not reflect on himself? After he finished speaking briefly, he heard Taoist Luo sneer and said, No. 9 was the last to join the sect. He was already a Jindan cultivator at the time. Several fellow disciples privately reminded me that No. 9's loyalty and reliability could not be guaranteed. Why does it seem that the loyal cultivators who grew up in the sect are not as good as the outside cultivators you mentioned? Who can tell me why? Everyone was silent. Everyone knew that the leader used No. 9 to warn them, but the achievements made by No. 9 were indeed real. If becoming the leader of the mortal path was arranged by the sect, then becoming the leader of the 6 paths was indeed a difficult task that ordinary people could not accomplish. The 6 path sect was not stupid. If there were not enough interests and enemies, who would be willing to form an alliance with you and listen to your orders? Look at Wei Dongliu, who even dared to challenge a behemoth like cunning, and in the end he was able to bite off a piece of meat from the opponent and retrieve unscathed. Such a heroic leader can integrate the 6 paths together. What's so strange about it? Therefore, everyone shut up and obediently accepted the ridicule and reprimand of the leader. After Taoist Luo finished his reprimand, he announced the adjournment of the meeting. Wei Dongliu was about to leave with everyone, but was stopped by Taoist Luo again. Number 9. Taoist Luo was silent for a moment, and said, There is a task that is not within your responsibility, and you may need to help me. Wei Dongliu. If it is not my responsibility, don't assign it to me and ask me to work overtime, okay? Taoist Luo obviously did not have this self-awareness, just waved his hand and said, Number 2, come here. Number 2 walked forward. Wei Dongliu was shocked. This guy hadn't left before. Why didn't I notice his existence? Number 2 has cultivated a magical power. Taoist Luo introduced, it can make people not notice his existence. However, he has not yet cultivated this magical power completely, and currently cannot send and receive in his heart, so although he successfully lurked in the sect, he did not get much information. Now in the sect, in terms of skills, courage and ability, you are the most outstanding. I think after thinking about it, it is still only you who can help him. Wei Dongliu pondered for a long time, thinking that it is really hard to refuse. He had just completed a task beautifully and initially gained the trust of Taoist Luo. If he refused him here, he would definitely annoy him. So he said, Do you need me to change my appearance? Of course. Taoist Luo waved his hand and said, Jin'an Temple is a hidden temple. Only Buddhists can enter. I will teach you an illusion. You have to disguise yourself as a relic monk from Buddha Temple. Ask No. 2 to guide you and live and practice in Jin'an Temple. I understand. Wei Dongliu thought for a moment and asked, What is the mission goal? Try to find out the situation of Jin'an Temple as much as possible. Taoist Luo replied, Sort out the intelligence information, the more detailed the better. Got it. Wei Dongliu took the illusion jade slip handed over by Taoist Luo. Go to the teleportation gate in the back hall. Taoist Luo watered. The teleportation channel you came from is under maintenance and cannot be used for the time being. Maintenance again? Wei Dongliu was surprised. It was maintained after the last time I came, and it was maintained again this time. Are all your teleportation arrays disposable? To keep it secret to this extent, it was really exaggerated. He followed No. 2 to the back hall, stepped into another teleportation formation, and then disappeared. As the world spun, the two had arrived at a certain mountain. The peaks were towering, extremely steep and precipitous, and their height was unknown. There was only a sea of clouds below. There were also countless dead pines hanging upside down, with clear springs flowing between them, and hawks and orioles flying across the sky. Their calls were endless. On the top of the mountain, you can see a Buddhist temple with an extremely simple shape. The walls are made of grey soil and the eaves are covered with brass, which is very different from the popular modern Buddhist temple style. Brother, that is the Jing'an temple. Wei Dongliu was startled. Who is next to me? Then he saw a young monk with a low brow and a pleasant look. He put his hands together in front of his chest and said stutteringly, Brother, you're a wandering monk from Buddha temple who came here to practice. I can introduce you, but that, brother, you'd better change your appearance. Amitabha. Wei Dongliu immediately understood that this person was the second hidden man in hell. He walked down the mountain steps, out of the sight of the young monk, and took out the magic jade slip given by Taoist Luo. This magic was too simple and far inferior to Arjin's illusion. Wei Dongliu asked Arjin to disguise himself with magic and turned into a tall, thin, gentle young monk. When he turned back again, he saw that the young monk was still standing there, chanting the Buddha's name, but even the Buddha's name was stuttering. Brother, you are finally back. He kept saying with his head down, then let me take you back to the temple. The two of them climbed up the mountain path, one in front and one behind. Wei Dongliu looked into the distance and saw that there was no sun in the sky, but it was as bright as day. The sea of cloud in the distance was also boundless, and no second mountain could be seen within the field of vision. A Jing. He called quietly in his heart, where exactly is this place? It seems to be a cave. Jing replied, the construction of the cave has obvious Western religious characteristics. Wei Dongliu nodded slightly, and heard Jing suddenly say in surprise, Guan Shu. I sense the breath of the sky repairing stone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.